subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Facing everyone's gaze, he smiled slightly embarrassedly and said, "I said before that I suspect the treasure in the center of the desert is the Sataka fruit I ate. The power of this fruit is terrible." Crocodile. Straw Hat Crew. Everyone. It's terrible if you talk about it in detail. They thought Vivi was embarrassed to say that before, but now it seems that Vivi was really embarrassed at the time. First of all, it's the improvement of physical fitness. My current strength is terrible. Crocodile nodded and disagreed. As we all know, Zoan Devil Fruit can greatly improve the physical fitness of the host. The second is the power to control steel. I can turn sand into iron sand and then control it at will. Crocodile was numb when he heard this. Crocodile suspected that someone was targeting him, and now it was confirmed. Turn sand into iron sand and then control it freely? Isn't this Tienka's own sand fruit? Crocodile felt like his back teeth were about to break, so he gritted his teeth and asked, "Is there a limit to your ability?" Wei Wei answered innocently, "No, with my current physical fitness, I can control hundreds of tons of sand, and this is not the limit." Crocodile. Hearing this, Crocodile has already started to think about how to get out. Damn, I was careless. I should have stopped Wei Wei from eating the devil fruit. Crocodile was filled with regret. Crocodile really didn't expect that the Sataka fruit had this ability. Now that Wei Wei has this ability, he will not have an advantage when facing the Straw Hat Crew. Crocodile gritted his teeth and asked, "What else?" Wei Wei. "Then I can condense sand iron into various weapons, and I don't know why, I found that I am now good at using all weapons and various combat skills." Anything else? Crocodile gritted his teeth and continued to ask without giving up. Wei Wei. "Also, in terms of assistance, I can bless myself and my companions, which will greatly improve our speed." He really has it. Crocodile was speechless. He just didn't die. Luffy, who was tempted, invited again with expectation. "Wei Wei, would you consider getting on my ship again?" Wei Wei shook her head and refused seriously. "No, I'm the princess of the kingdom and the next king. I want to protect Alabasta and lead Alabasta to prosperity again, just like Queen Sataka." Luffy was not frustrated after being rejected again. After all, Vivi had rejected him once before. Seeing that Vivi actually rejected Luffy's invitation, Crocodile was even more depressed. It seems that Alabasta is really a broken place that can't be stayed. Thinking so, Crocodile could only pray that he would have some unexpected gains next time, otherwise he would really lose a lot. Crocodile reminded, "Robin, you continue to translate." Robin nodded in understanding and no longer worried about Crocodile's hidden danger. If Crocodile dared to take action, Wei Wei would dare to provoke Crocodile. Now they have the advantage. I'll let the sun disk absorb the power of nearly 20 devil fruits. When Sataka knew about the sun disk, she came up with a very crazy idea. Sataka is not a fruit ability user. She wants to infuse all the power of 20 devil fruits in her body to make herself a true supreme warrior queen. This idea is too crazy and too risky. I rejected Sataka, but I also underestimated Sataka's desire for power. Sataka activated the sun disk without authorization when I was not paying attention, but due to an operational error, the power of the devil fruit did not enter Sataka's body. Instead, the solar energy stored in the sun disk rushed into Sataka's body crazily. Sataka's physical fitness is comparable to that of the Marine Admiral Army, but even such physical fitness cannot withstand the surging power of the sun. After listening to the translation, the truth of 300 years ago was finally revealed. Wei Wei said with some sadness, "So, is this the truth?" No wonder Queen Sataka died suddenly. Even Crocodile was frightened by the madness of Queen Sataka 300 years ago. Sataka is definitely a lunatic who will do anything for power. She actually wanted to take all the power of 20 devil fruits for herself. How could one person have the power of 20 devil fruits? You must know that no one has ever had the power of two fruits since ancient times. At least Crocodile has never heard of it. Crocodile sincerely thanked. Fortunately, it failed. Otherwise, I dare not imagine what kind of monster such an existence is. Even the people of Straw Hat Luffy were also thankful that Sataka failed. Apart from the idle halo of Sataka, from the description of the owner of the diary, Sataka is not actually a wise monarch, but a tyrant. Sataka recklessly attacks neighboring countries. He is ambitious and full of desire for power. For those who desire peace, the existence of such a person is a nightmare. Even Alabasta will be driven by Sataka's ambition to do some bad things. Chapter 30, Fate. What happened next? Did Sataka die? Crocodile asked curiously. Robin did not reply, but continued to translate the following content. The core of the sun disk is a kind of balance. The solar energy and devil fruit inside must be in a state of balance. Once this balance is broken, it will collapse. As all the solar energy in the sun disk poured into Sataka's body, the sun disk inevitably collapsed. The collapse of the sun disk affected not only the sun disk, but also the entire Shurima. I never imagined that the first scene of the earth-shattering world I saw after coming to this world would be in such a scene. On this day, the sun disk collapsed, the earth fell, and Shurima disappeared in the yellow sand. I only had time to save Sataka. After translating this passage, Robin sighed and said, "It turns out that the legendary city of Shurima, the center of the desert, disappeared for this reason. Shurima was built with Sataka's ambition and was eventually buried by the yellow sand because of Sataka's ambition. This may be fate. Everyone just felt that fate was playing tricks on them. They thought that Alabasta, which had recovered 20 mythical beasts' devil fruit, would become stronger than ever. But the result was that Alabasta went from prosperity to decline, and now it has not recovered after 300 years. Nami, who was keenly aware of the key point, couldn't help but ask, wait, since the sun disk is broken, and this is the ruins of Shurima, do you think there will be fragments of the sun disk here? Will there still be the power of devil fruit in it? Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. Seeing everyone tempted, Robin bluntly said, forget it. You don't even know what the sun disk looks like. How can you find the fragments of the sun disk? And if the sun disk is broken, who knows if it can still be used? After beating everyone, Robin continued to translate. Stupid woman ruined my plan. I thought I could create Shurima with my own hands, but I didn't expect that it would be ruined by a woman in the end. But this may be retribution. I ignited Sataka's ambition, and all this was caused by Sataka's ambition. I misunderstood Sataka. I saw Sataka's diary yesterday. It turns out that he pursued power just because he was afraid of the man on the Void Throne. Sataka had long discovered my malice towards the world government and knew that I would be an enemy of the world government. Sataka wanted to support me, but was afraid that Alabasta would be liquidated by the world government. So Sataka could only pursue power madly, the kind of power that was so strong that it could help him overthrow the world government and protect Alabasta. After listening to this translation, Crocodile laughed. Ah, ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Such a great man actually lost in love. The supreme warrior queen. The so-called saint is just like this. Crocodile laughed loudly at the owner of the diary and Sataka. Wei Wei looked at the statue of Sataka in front of her with some emotion. So this is the truth. Is this the reason why His Majesty Sataka pursued power so madly? Wei Wei suddenly realized that His Majesty Sataka had the same troubles as herself 300 years ago. Don't know how to choose between companions and the kingdom? It's just that Queen Sataka was more greedy 300 years ago, and she chose to have everything. And today, 300 years later, Wei Wei, as a descendant of Sataka, chose the latter because of her youth. Seeing the moved Wei Wei, Crocodile said disdainfully, "It seems that in the heart of your ancestor queen, the owner of this diary is as important as Alabasta. The love of one person is more important than that of a country." Nami was moved and sincerely blessed. This is a two-way journey. I really hope that the owner of the diary and Queen Sataka can have a perfect ending. Robin also sighed with a complicated expression and then continued to translate the next content. I hate death, and I hate parting even more. So I decided to be an enemy of Shinigami. At the cost of an ice heart and 6 bridge guards, I released a permanent ice seal on Sataka. Sataka's body is too bad, and the solar energy in her body is constantly washing Sataka's body. Only the ice seal can barely keep Sataka in a permanent state of stillness. As for how to save Sataka, I think I have some clues. The good news is that Sataka is not dead, but sealed, and then new words such as Ice Heart and Bridge Guardian appeared. Crocodile frowned and asked, "Isn't he dead? But what is Ice Heart and Bridge Guardian?" Wei Wei shook his head. "I haven't heard of it. Alabasta has no records of Ice Heart and Bridge Guardian, not even in myths and legends." Luffy said excitedly, "See, there's another unsolved mystery." "No, isn't the most important thing that Sataka is not dead? Then what about the Sataka fruit that Wei Wei ate?" Robin reminded. "As we all know, devil fruit must be reborn somewhere in the sea after demon fruit power dies. But Sataka is not dead yet. So how did the Sataka fruit come from?" Chapter 31, Legends and Myths, Sataka and Nika Fruit. Nami analyzed, is there a possibility that the Sataka fruit was born in the legend, and the Sataka fruit and Queen Sataka are not from the same era? Crocodile nodded and agreed. The little thief is right. The Sataka fruit is a devil fruit that was born after Sataka was deified, so she can exist at the same time as Sataka. Seeing that several people were analyzing here, Zoro urged in Mandarin, "Continue to read the next diary. There should be the truth we want on it. What's the point of you guessing so much here?" Robin nodded, and then continued to translate the content above. "The country cannot be without a monarch for a day. With my support, Alabasta's nephew inherited the throne. Sataka's distant cousin is not a talent, or even a good monarch, but his character is okay. If nothing unexpected happens, her great-great-granddaughter is Wei Wei." After hearing this, Wei Wei suddenly realized, so this is how my ancestor got the throne. Crocodile also suddenly realized at this time, and he finally understood why Alabasta has become what it is today. The 10th king was appointed in a time of crisis, and he has not received monarch training. No wonder we in Alabasta are worse than the previous one. The devil fruit has not yet been born. After Sataka fell into a deep sleep, Alabasta no longer cares about me. The sun disk is left by me to Sataka, so let's wait for Sataka to wake up before deciding on the disposal of the sun disk. After 100 years, I set foot on this land again. The fruit that belongs to Sataka was born, but through the great destiny, I found that the Sataka fruit is not Sataka's. In other words, the Sataka fruit cannot cure Sataka. What should I do? Sataka? Sataka was indeed left here by the owner of the diary. The great destiny? Is it a special ability that can detect destiny? Robin thought. Crocodile suddenly interrupted Robin, who was about to continue translating. "Wait, Robin, are you sure you didn't translate the time wrong? 100 years later? That means when the owner of the diary returned to Alabasta for the 3rd time, he was at least 120 years old." Robin also shook his head. "The time is correct. It is indeed 100 years later." After Crocodile's reminder, everyone finally realized the age problem. Even Luffy couldn't help but complain. 120 years old and still able to sail on the sea? The owner of this diary is too long-lived, isn't he? Robin followed up with an analysis. If the owner of the diary lived for 100 years, then he may indeed have traveled all over the world. No wonder the world government is looking for everything related to Chinese characters in a big way. The world government must have found traces left by the owner of the diary somewhere else. And the diary must also record some shocking things. Nami asked curiously, "Then where do you think there will be traces of the owner of the diary?" Robin said in an affirmative tone, "Legend. Chasing legends can find traces of the owner of the diary. Don't forget the purpose of the owner of the diary leaving Alabasta for the first time." Crocodile asked with interest, with his arms crossed, "Speaking of legends, I have heard of an interesting legend. Have you heard of the rumors about Sky Island?" Seeing that everyone seemed to be interested in Sky Island, Crocodile's mouth curled up slightly, and then asked, "Is there nothing in the diary? For example, Sataka's sleeping place. Then you must have hidden a huge amount of wealth." Robin said, "It does say where Sataka's sleeping place is, but I don't think we should disturb him. Are you sure? Or do you want to take the treasure for yourself?" Crocodile looked at Robin with a cold look, ready to fight at any time. At this time, Luffy took the initiative to say, "We will leave here in a while. If you don't believe it, you can leave with us." Luffy also realized that their adventure could not continue because it involved Alabasta's private property. It even involved the ancestors of the Alabasta royal family. Although Luffy is a man with strong limbs and big nerves, it does not mean that he does not understand the ways of the world. Is that so? That's really disappointing. Crocodile curled his lips and silently removed the sand that had already condensed. At this time, Wei Wei also stood up and said coldly, "Crocodile, I haven't forgiven you for the harm you caused to Alabasta. If you dare to appear in Alabasta again, I will kill you without hesitation. Don't doubt my determination." Crocodile asked back unhappily, "Huh? Do you think you can kill me?" Wei Wei said firmly, "I don't know, but I will try my best." Crocodile replied arrogantly, "Don't worry, I am not interested in Alabasta without Pluton now." Crocodile said arrogantly that he had no interest in Alabasta, but Crocodile really didn't want to fight with Wei Wei, a woman who was a natural nemesis of him. Chapter 32. Kazan. Can I represent marine justice with my 200,000 soldiers? The Straw Hat Pirates' adventure in Alabasta ended here, but when leaving Alabasta, Robin secretly gave Wei Wei a map. "This is my compensation for helping the evil over the years." After Robin said softly, he turned around and boarded the Straw Hat Pirates' pirate ship. Looking at the Mary that was gradually going away, Wei Wei lowered her head and checked the paper in her hand. Sataka's sleeping place, but the diary said that there was a powerful existence there guarding Sataka's sleep. After seeing this, Wei Wei quietly put the map away. Vivi was not going to look for her ancestors, not to mention that she had no way to save Sataka in that state. What's more, Sataka's awakening is not a good thing for Alabasta now. What if Sataka still wants to rule Alabasta in the same way as before? Wouldn't that be worse than now? Wei Wei doesn't like war, not to mention that Sataka still wants to be an enemy of the world government. Naval Headquarters. After many days, Kazan finally woke up from his coma and put his hand on his heart in confusion. Kazan could clearly feel that the heart that did not belong to him was constantly strengthening his body, and it was pulsating in a very regular way. Kazan suddenly remembered the practice method recorded in the diary. Ice breathing? Because of the 300 years of practicing ice breathing, the ancestor's heart has long been assimilated by the ice breathing. So now the ice heart is practicing ice breathing on its own. Kazan thought thoughtfully. Kazan sighed with infinite sorrow in his heart. "Ancestor Hanfeng, you really left a big problem for me. The younger generation." At this time, a nurse suddenly ran over and reported, "Akiji Admiral, Gion is outside asking for an audience." Kazan nodded. "Let him in." Soon Gon, wearing a Marine Vice Admiral uniform and a cloak of justice, walked in from the door. "Gion, excuse me, Mr. Kazan. Are you feeling better now?" Kazan asked curiously. "Better than ever. Vice Admiral Gion. What do you want to talk to me about?" The relationship between him and Gion can only be regarded as a normal colleague relationship, not even a friend. Kazan was also very curious why Gion was the first to visit him after he woke up. "I was asked to do translation." Gion handed a worn-out little notebook to Kazan. Gion explained, "This is an old man named Hanfeng who asked me to teach you. He asked me to tell you the contents in the absence of outsiders." Looking at the diary in his hand, Kazan frowned. Kazan said, "Then I'll have to trouble Vice Admiral Gion." Originally, he didn't want to listen, but considering that Gion had already read the contents above, it might be more troublesome if he didn't know at that time. So Kazan was willing to listen. Gion nodded. "Child, when you see this notebook, I should have returned to my hometown to enjoy my old age. 300 years ago, I brought your ancestor, my son, to follow the saint to West Blue and took root there. That was also the wish of our family. After 300 years, our family has grown. You may not know this, because the saint has predicted that you have a destiny and asked us not to interfere with your growth. So over the years, we have never told you the secrets of the family. In fact, you did not disappoint us. The frozen fruit of Logia really found you. You may not know what frozen fruit means. Ancestors, family, frozen fruit, and destiny? Guillaume looked at Kazan with a strange look. As a righteous Marine vice admiral, she had never seen what was written in the notebook in her hand before today. Guillaume did not expect that Kazan actually carried such a big secret. Kazan said expressionlessly, "I will take advantage of my sick leave to go back to West Blue to find out the truth." Vice Admiral Guillaume, don't think too much. Guillaume nodded. After all, this was Kazan's private matter. Guillaume didn't take it too seriously, but continued to translate honestly. Frozen fruit recognizes you as its master, which means you will become the leader of the Frost Legion. You may not know what the Frost Legion means. At least 400 of the first 600 people who followed the saints spread out on the sea, and their inheritance has not been broken for 300 years. This means that you will become the leader of these 400 families. Although these 400 families are distributed in the 4 seas, each family has its own army. Each family has a 500-man Frost Legion. They all practice the cultivation method left by the saint. The average combat effectiveness of each Frost Legion is at the colonel level. Guillaume stopped translating here and looked at Kuzan in disbelief. The revelations in this notebook are a bit scary. 400 means 200,000. 200,000 Marine colonel-level combat power. Let alone Marine, even the world government can't gather such a terrifying army. Even Kuzan's mouth twitched slightly when he heard about the content. Kuzan, I have 200,000 soldiers, and I still pursue the ambiguous justice. Lousy wants to create a new Marine. Create a new justice? The burning justice is really burning. Kazan, who was originally careless, finally showed a touch of excitement on his face. Chapter 33. Create a new Marine, or become a Marine Marshal. Keep going. Kazan urged excitedly. If he had 200,000 colonel-level combat power to practice justice, the picture would be so beautiful that he couldn't imagine it. Absolute justice requires absolute power. Since that Buster call, Kazan understood this truth. It was because he couldn't see the hope of absolute justice that he later pursued the so-called ambiguous justice. As for why he couldn't see hope, even if he became the Marine Marshal, so what? As long as the world government is still there, as long as the Marines still obey the world government, Kazan, can enforce absolute justice. As for Akainu, that's the standard part-time job mentality. I just want to be a pirate. As for you asking me to be a civilian, that doesn't matter, as long as you can let me be a pirate. To put it bluntly, it's a question of sympathy. He will feel guilty for O'Hara, but Akainu won't. Shocked by the contents of the notebook, Guillaume nodded and continued to translate the following contents. But if you want to become the leader of the Frost Legion, frozen fruit is just a ticket. The Frost Legion was established for 2 reasons. One is to protect the descendants of the Tajiro wolf, and the other is to overthrow the world government. If you can't accept these 2 goals, I advise you not to attack the Frost Legion, because the Frost Legion also includes the Bridge Guards. You may not know what the Bridge Guards mean. They could be said to be the ancestors of the 400 families. Like me, they're the first to follow the saints. The strength of each Bridge Guard is admirable. Sure enough, Kazan, who is still a little excited, sighed leisurely. He has figured out the choice his ancestors gave him. Either betray the world government and serve the owner of the diary, or pretend that nothing happened. At the same time, his ancestor was very cunning and deliberately emphasized the strength of the current owner of the diary. At least 10 admiral-level strongmen. What kind of immortal strength is this? But is it possible? Kazan couldn't help but touch the cold heart at his heart. The ancestors gave him his heart, obviously hoping that he would lead the Frost Legion. But betraying the world government means betraying Marine. Guillaume also discovered Kuzan's entanglement. Betraying the world government does not mean betraying Marine. Guillaume reminded him specifically, there are also many people in Marine who are unhappy with the world government, such as her. Kazan nodded and did not speak. Is there anything else? Yes. Guillaume nodded. Then let's continue. The celestial dragons, who are high above, enslave all living beings and treat human lives as worthless. How absurd is it that such people rule the world? The saints said that the so-called world government is the largest pirate group for ordinary people. I know you are pursuing your justice, but compared with the other two admirals, your determination and will to pursue justice are not as good as Akainu, and your forgiveness of justice is not as good as Kizaru. You're always wavering in the middle. Make a firm choice. Do you choose to protect the celestial dragons, or choose to stand on the side of all living beings? After Guion finished translating, he looked at Kazan with some worry. From the perspective of marine and world government, the most qualified admiral is definitely Akainu, and the least qualified is definitely Kizaru. While Kazan belongs to the middle faction, Akainu is the best, and Kizaru is the worst. In fact, Guion thinks Kazan is the most like Garp. Kazan asked, "Anything else?" Guion, "There's another sentence after that." Kazan, "What is it?" Guion translated, "If you have made a choice, then go back to your hometown." "I know." Thank Guion for translating. Kazan closed his eyes after thanking him. Knowing that Kazan was chasing people away, Guion politely said, "You're welcome. I was also entrusted by someone." Guion left the ward after he finished speaking. As soon as Guion left the ward, Kazan opened his eyes. Kazan could feel that his physical fitness was constantly improving under the influence of the ice heart, and the improvement of physical fitness brought about an improvement in strength in all aspects. For example, armament hockey and observation hockey, these are all based on physical strength, and even the consumption of devil fruit is also based on physical strength. Ice heart, this gift from the ancestors is too big. Kazan thought a little tangled, not tangled about whether to betray the world government. After all, what is there to be tangled about? 200,000 troops. This is not 20 people, nor 200 people, but 200,000? And every soldier is a colonel, not those cannon fodder soldiers. Betraying the world government and the 200,000 troops, this has never been a choice. No, I'm not loyal to the world government. How can I betray it? Kazan quickly began to brainwash himself again. What Kazan was tangled about at the moment was whether he could control the 200,000 troops. After controlling the 200,000 troops, would he create a new marine? Or kick Sengoku down and become the marine admiral, and then lead the entire marine to break away from the world government? As for loyalty to the owner of the diary, Kazan said that this is called something to say. I am willing to work for celestial dragons. Why can't I work for the owner of the diary? The owner of the diary is more human than celestial dragons, right? And that's a 200,000-man army. Decision. Kazan sat up from the hospital bed. Today, he carried the warship back to his hometown overnight, and then took over the 200,000-man army. What world government? What 5 stars, sorry? I'm really unfamiliar. Guion, who had just left the ward and had not yet walked out of the hospital, was stopped by Garp. Nervous Garp was like a thief. Garp looked around and found that no one was paying attention to this side. Garp said mysteriously, "Guion, Vice Admiral, are you free now? I have something I want to ask you for help." Chapter 34, Guion. Oh no, I'm Garp's stepmother. Guion looked at Garp with some doubts, then nodded hesitantly. After the two came to an empty ward, Garp carefully took out a diary from his pocket and explained, "This is left by my irresponsible father. It was originally supposed to be my mother who relayed what he left in the diary, but unfortunately, I didn't wait until that day." Guion couldn't help but ask, "Wouldn't it be Chinese characters on it?" Garp nodded as a matter of course. "Of course, otherwise why would I ask you to help me translate it?" Guion took the notebook curiously. The notebook was very thin, but the pages were quite complete. Finally, I saw a complete notebook. Guion complained in his heart. He has translated almost 3 notebooks, but none of them are complete. "My son, when you were born, the entire East Blue Sea Kings were whispering your name, Monkey D. Garp. I was supposed to witness your growth, but in order to overthrow the corrupt world government, I had to leave you and your mother. Through the great destiny technique, and to ensure that the plot can develop in the direction I expect, I cannot interfere with your growth trajectory. But my child, you will grow up under my watch to become a strong and confident young man, and then form your own family. Ah, this. Guion Abba. Can I translate this? The father of the hero Marine is a rebel, determined to overthrow the world government all his life. Guion couldn't help but think of the rumor. Vice Admiral Garp's son joined the Revolutionary Army and became the most vicious criminal in the world. Then Garp's grandson became a Marine again, saying that he wanted to become the new Pirate King with the straw hat of the Pirate King. Now, there is another rebellious father. What does Vice Admiral Garp's political review say? This is probably not the whole family will be torn apart by a car, right? After hearing this, Garp's face became extremely nervous. After carefully opening the observation hotkey to make sure that there was no one around, Garp breathed a sigh of relief. Garp, feeling guilty, whispered, "Ahem, Guion, keep your voice down, and keep your voice down when you translate." Guion nodded speechlessly, and then sighed. I didn't expect that Vice Admiral Garp's father was so famous. Garp asked with an unhappy face. In other words, my BD father was a subordinate of the time traveler 300 years ago? Guion nodded. It seems that at present, the people in the world who know Chinese characters are all time travelers. The two did not think much about the time traveler. After all, according to the time, he was more than 200 years old when he traveled through time. How could he still be interested in women? What about you? Vice Admiral Guion. Garp looked at Guion with burning eyes. Guion fixed his hair and replied calmly. I should be considered half, right? I have no feelings for the world government, so I will always be a Marine. Garp nodded and did not pursue anything but asked, Okay. Guion Vice Admiral remembered to keep it a secret from me. Of course, I will not tell the contents of the diary to a third person. Guion promised. After the promise, Guion asked, Then I will continue to translate? Garp, go on anyway. I am mentally prepared. Child, you have your own destiny and your own journey. I can't let you take my name, so I can only let you follow your mother and believe it. So you will sail on this sea with the name of D. Hearing this, Garp was instantly unhappy and urged, Did my BD father leave his name? Yes. Guion nodded and continued to translate. But your father could tell you my origins. Your father's name is Wu Ming, a time traveler from another world. If one day you want to return to your roots, your name should be Wu Ka. This is one of your father's biggest secrets. Remember not to reveal it. Garp? This secret is known to the entire world government and Marine executives. Garp complained his heart. But my father is actually that time traveler. This is incredible. He is 300 years old and can still have children. Garp continued to complain in his heart. Guion. When translating to this point, Guion's hands trembled slightly, and even his heartbeat speed increased a lot. Wu Ming. This familiar name. This name. How could it be that BD? Guion's heart was agitated, and he even had the urge to throw away the diary and turn around and run. Wu Ming. This name is so familiar to her. The BD who taught her Chinese characters and took her virginity 20 years ago was also called Wu Ming. So, according to the seniority, Vice Admiral Garp has to call me stepmother? This is a mess. It's really a mess. Guion felt that this matter might not be said. It would be embarrassing to say it to everyone. Garp is over 70 years old. He is old enough to be his grandfather. Garp also keenly noticed Guion's strangeness, and a bad premonition flashed through his mind. Garp asked cautiously, Guion Vice Admiral, where have you heard of this name? No, I don't know him. Guion quickly denied it 3 times. Seeing Guion's reaction, Garp was even more panicked. Could it be that the one who taught Guion Chinese characters was his BD dad? And it was under that situation, so Garp, with a gloomy face, gritted his teeth in his heart and said, Old BD, you really deserve to die. Chapter 35. Sengoku. You're in your 70s and ready for a second life? Although he was complaining in his heart that his BD father could still fight at the age of more than 300, Garp did not expose Guion. After all, it would be embarrassing for everyone to talk about this. Guion, Vice Admiral, please continue to translate the following content. Guion nodded. Your father, I cannot interfere with your growth trajectory, but it does not mean that I cannot provide you with help. When you become a Marine Vice Admiral and have a son, you will be able to inherit some of my things. In East Blue, there is a treasure I left behind, which records the most suitable practice method for you and a most suitable devil fruit for you. By the way, it is a devil fruit without side effects. A gleam of light flashed in Garp's eyes. The most suitable practice method for himself. Garp first thought of the Six Storehouse Immortal Thief left by the irresponsible father, the heaven-defying method that can make people immortal. Guillaume gently closed the notebook, looked at Garp with complicated eyes, and said, "Vice Admiral Garp, I have finished the translation. It seems that I have to go back to East Blue again." Garp rubbed his stubbled chin helplessly. "Guillaume, Vice Admiral, please trouble you. Please keep this matter confidential for me." Garp thanked him after taking the notebook. Guillaume nodded again. Garp left in a hurry with the notebook, and Guillaume looked down at Kinpyra with a complicated face. "I didn't expect that the person I like is actually a traitor, so why did he let me join Marine?" Guillaume thought in confusion. Boom! Garp kicked open the door of the Marine Marshal's office and said carelessly, "Sengoku, I'm here to ask for leave." Sengoku. Hearing these familiar words, Sengoku frowned into a well shape, and Sengoku, with veins on his forehead, gritted his teeth and said, "Ask for leave? You just came back from vacation yesterday, didn't you? Do you know that because of your vacation, our buster call failed to launch? Do you know that because of your vacation, Kazan almost died in the Tajiro Wolf? Do you know how much loss our Marines suffered because of your vacation, Garp?" Garp looked at the furious Sengoku with a confused face. "Sengoku, old BD, don't think you can fool me just because I'm not well educated. Buster call failed. You can go to the world government. What does it have to do with me? As for Marines' losses, I'm not involved in Buster call. What does taking a vacation have to do with Marines' losses?" Garp sat on the sofa carelessly after he finished speaking, and even picked his nose without paying attention to others. Sengoku. There was nothing he could do with Garp, this old rogue. Sengoku asked depressedly, "Marine is weak now. What do you want to do with your vacation?" Garp did not hide the treasure and said directly, "My father left me a fortune. I plan to go back and inherit it." "Did your uncle also leave you a legacy?" Sengoku looked at Garp strangely, and his eyes revealed two words, "Don't believe it." Sengoku questioned, "If I remember correctly, your father seemed to have died before you were born? You were raised by your mother." Garp explained, "I only found out about this yesterday. He left me a letter and a treasure map, saying there is a devil fruit that is very suitable for me." "Old man, you are so old and you are still going to eat devil fruit?" Sengoku asked with a strange look. How old is Garp this year? He is already in his 70s. If it weren't for the fact that there were really not many people in Marine, Garp should have retired long ago. But because he occupies the position of Marine hero, Garp really can't retire, at least not because of old age. Garp replied with a displeased face, "Isn't it okay for me to rejuvenate my second spring?" Who is he, Garp? That is the ultimate existence who can maintain peak combat power at the age of 70. For this reason, Whitebeard next door has to kowtow to him and ask him for health knowledge. Sengoku, who chose to give in, suggested, "Why don't you send someone else to get it?" Garp refused without even thinking. "No, the treasure is too rich. I don't trust anyone else." What a joke. Let alone the devil fruit that his BD father might call the most suitable for him, and has no side effects. Just the fact that the treasure might contain the secret of longevity. Garp was not going to use someone else's hand to get the treasure. After refusing, Garp found some sunbae from somewhere and started stuffing them into his mouth. Looking at the sunbae in Garp's hand, Sengoku, who was out of control again, roared, "A hole! These are my sunbae. Don't be so stingy. Aren't they just some sunbae? When I get my BD father's treasure, I'll buy you an office full of sunbae." Garp was very cunning and made big promises, as if he was sure that Sengoku would agree to his leave. Sengoku certainly wouldn't fall for his trick, but considering that Garp really had something important to do when he asked for leave, Sengoku could only nod helplessly and said, "Okay, I'll approve your leave, but you have to come back soon." "Okay, then I'll retreat first." Garp left the Marine Marshal's office without looking back, holding a bag of sunbae in his hand. Sengoku angrily shouted at Garp's back, "A hole! This is the last generation of sunbae for me." As soon as Garp left, Kazan came to the Marine Marshal's office with injuries. "Marshal, I'm Kazan. I want leave." Kazan explained his purpose very concisely. Chapter 36. Sengoku. "Akiji, you and Garp have the same father?" Sengoku. Looking at Kazan, who was still injured, Sengoku opened his mouth and finally sighed. If Kazan was not injured, he would definitely scold him to death. "Garp just asked for leave, and you asked for leave right after that. What? Did you agree to ask for leave together to play? And you and Garp are the ones who ask for leave most frequently in the entire naval headquarters. Can you be more sensible?" Sengoku said with concern. "You really need to rest for a few days with your injury." "There's no way. There are only 5 admiral of headquarters-level combat forces, including Marine, 3 admirals, him, and Garp. Garp has already asked for leave, and Kazan is also injured now, which means that there are only 3 admiral-level combat forces in Marine now. If naval headquarters is attacked by pirates at this time, the losses will definitely be very heavy. At least if Kaido invades naval headquarters at this time, they can only let Kaido wreak havoc in naval headquarters." Kazan reported seriously. "I'm going back to my hometown West Blue, so I have to take a few more days off. Go back to West Blue later?" Sengoku thought of Garp, the old BD, who seemed to have asked for leave to go back to East Blue. "How come you all agreed to go back to your hometown together?" Sengoku, who was complaining in his heart, asked curiously. "Why are you going back to West Blue?" Kazan did not hide it and reported honestly. "I found a treasure left by my ancestor for me, and I want to go find it." Sengoku. "You and Garp's ancestor are the same person?" Sengoku asked in confusion. "Garp is going back to find the treasure, and you're going back to find the treasure too? But one is East Blue and the other is West Blue. Isn't this too coincidental?" Kazan looked at Sengoku in confusion. "What do you mean Garp and I have the same ancestor?" Sengoku explained with a dark face. "Just now, that old BD Garp also came to me to ask for leave, saying that he wanted to go back to East Blue to find treasure." Kazan. Speechless, Kazan said depressedly, "I said this is a coincidence. Marshal Sengoku, do you believe it?" Sengoku crossed his arms and asked indifferently, "Why did you suddenly think of looking for treasure? Why didn't I see you looking for it before? You have asked for leave before, right?" This time, after walking in front of Shinigami, I realized that my strength needs to become stronger, and then I remembered that my ancestor left me a treasure, and that treasure may be able to improve my strength a little. Kazan did not mention the notebook or the 200,000 troops, although Sengoku still doubted the authenticity of this matter. Considering that Kazan was indeed injured now, Kazan just wanted to take a sick leave. How could he not approve it? Considering that he was the Marine Marshal and not the Celestial Dragons, Sengoku did not make things difficult for Kazan in this regard. "Okay, I'll approve your leave." Sengoku nodded speechlessly. "I'm going to leave today, so I'll take my leave now," Kazan said, and then he left the Marine Marshal's office without looking back. Looking at Kazan's back as he left, Sengoku shook his head helplessly. It's quite sad to say. Currently, there are only 5 high-end combat forces in the entire Marine. Kizuru, who is either slacking off or fishing every day, Akiji, who doesn't slack off, but often slacks off, and Garp, who occasionally slacks off and occasionally fishes. If you think about it carefully, the only person in the entire Marine who could be truly called a qualified Marine seems to be Akainu, a guy with an extreme personality. But Akainu's personality is too extreme. If he becomes the Marine Marshal, the entire Marine will become extreme, and then it will be ordinary civilians who will suffer. Akainu himself has a military personality and even despises life a little, except for his lack of loyalty to Celestial Dragons. Akainu is actually no different from those world-conquering agents. He doesn't care about the lives of civilians. As long as he can kill the pirates, it doesn't matter how many civilians die. If such a person becomes the Marine Marshal, it will have a great impact on the image of the Marine. But the problem is that the other marshals in reserve are not up to the task. Kizaru is not to be mentioned. Unless the other 2 admirals of the Marine 3 admirals are dead, Kizaru may become the Marine Marshal. The world government will not allow Kizaru to become the Marine Marshal. Faced with the embarrassment of the world government, Akainu may confront head-on. Akiji may be very unhappy, but will compromise in the end. But if it is Kizaru, that guy will definitely lead the entire Marine to play badly. The world government does not want the Marine to become stronger, but it definitely does not want the Marine to play badly. As for Akiji, there are definitely more people in the Marine who support Akiji than those who support Akainu, but the world conquest side will definitely favor Akainu more. The world government does not like Marine marshals who are too sympathetic. Alas, it's difficult. Jean Guo sighed again, and then buried his head in reviewing the documents. The failure of Buster Call has brought far more impacts than before. The most direct impact is that the deterrent power of Buster Call has weakened, and the deeper impact is that the deterrent power of the world government and the Marine has weakened. Without the deterrent power of the Marine and the world government, those who are ambitious and unhappy with their lives will be more eager to become pirates and rush to the sea. There are roughly two types of people who become pirates on the sea. The first type is ambitious, have dreams, and the second type is forced to do so. Although I don't want to admit it, the second type is definitely more than the first type. After all, there are always more people who can't survive in this world than those who have dreams. Chapter 37. Chasing Kaido in the Center of the Earth. Although the news that Marine failed to launch Buster Call was not known to everyone, many powerful people with channels received the news that Marine Buster Call failed. Dressrosa. Interesting. So interesting. Marine's Buster Call was actually destroyed, and even the two admirals were lucky to survive. Tekala Wolf. It is obviously just a country composed of slaves who build bridges. Why does it have such great power? 9 admiral-level strongmen. And this is not the full strength of the Tequila Wolf. This sea is really getting more and more exciting. Doflamingo excitedly looked at the information in his hand and laughed excitedly. Everything comes from Chinese characters. What secrets are hidden in this mysterious text? Doflamingo turned his head and looked at the stone slabs next to him. There were lines of square characters engraved on them, which were exactly the Chinese characters that the world government was looking for. It's a pity that there are too few people who can use this kind of text. Even if this thing is in hand, it can't be used. After the excitement, Doflamingo was also depressed. He stole these stone tablets from the Lilliput country. It is said that there is a special race called Ant-Man on them. It is said that they're the royal family of the Lilliput people, and each Ant-Man has extremely strong strength. New World Ghost Island. Woo 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 woo, Titans. My Titans, where are you? Kaido, who drank too much, cried while pouring wine. It is well known that Zoan Devil Fruit is divided into 3 types: ordinary, ancient, and fantasy beasts. However, according to understanding, there is actually a 4th type of Zoan Devil Fruit in this sea, which is called Titan. It is said that Titan Devil Fruit has a feature. That is, some special Titans can live in the sea. This is why he's been pursuing Titans all these years. Marine suddenly looked for people who knew Chinese characters, and Kaido suspected. The world government may have also discovered the secret of Titans. Kaido wiped his tears and snot and shouted, "Jean, hasn't the passage to the underground world been opened yet?" Jean reported calmly, "We have only dug 1,000 meters. According to legend, to enter the center of the earth, you must go 30,000 meters underground." Kaido urged fiercely, "Then go and get more slaves. Dig hard for lousy. De desperately." Jean reported seriously, "Boss, I think we should first figure out the contents of those stone tablets. There may be a way to go to the center of the earth. I think manual digging is the stupidest way." Kaido, of course he knew that it was the stupidest way, but the problem is that it was also the only way. Kaido asked depressedly, "In the entire ocean, except for the vice admiral named Guion and Marine, who else can know that kind of Chinese characters? I can't go to Marine to catch the one who was shot, right? I don't want to be the second idiot golden lion. There is someone who must know." Jean took out a bounty order and handed it to Kaido. "Devil's son Nico Robin?" Jean explained, "The Devil's child Nico Robin is wanted by the world government because she can read ancient characters and is a historian of O'Hara. She must know Chinese characters." Looking at the wanted list in front of him, Kaido asked excitedly, "Where is the Devil's child now?" "Jean, according to the intelligence, she seems to have entered the Grand Line, but the specific location is still unclear." Kaido, But Jean looked at Kaido with a bit of hesitation. Kaido said proudly, "If you have something to say, just say it directly. We don't need so many opportunities between us." Jean listened and continued to report. According to our undercover report in the Big Mom Pirates, it is said that Charlotte Linlin seems to know this kind of characters and is even very afraid of Chinese characters. Linlin knows Chinese characters? Kaido looked at Jean with some disbelief. Who is Charlotte Linlin? Although Charlotte Linlin helped him when he was weak, and even the blue dragon fruit was given to him by Charlotte Linlin. But even so, Kaido still wanted to say that Charlotte Linlin was a fool who wasted her talent. Throughout the entire ocean, there is no one with a higher innate talent than Charlotte Linlin. But with such an extraordinary innate talent, Charlotte Linlin, that idiot, actually used this talent to have children. If she spent all this energy on improving her strength, Charlotte Linlin's achievements would definitely not be limited to the 4 emperors on the sea. With such a person, can you expect her to spend time learning an unpopular Chinese character? If she had that time, wouldn't Charlotte Linlin have given birth to a few more children? Jean suggested. You can call and ask, what if he knows some clues about Chinese characters? Kaido nodded thoughtfully, and after a moment Kaido said, "Give me the Den Den Mushi. I'll go ask it myself." Jean soon brought the Den Den Mushi over. Hee. Kaido, what do you want from me, kid? Charlotte Linlin's sharp voice came from the phone. Kaido frowned when he heard this voice, and then asked directly, "I want to know information about Chinese characters. Do you know Chinese characters?" Chapter 38. The Gift from Heaven. The plot has been changed. Kanji. Hearing this familiar name, the ant's eyes began to blur, and her mind was immersed in memories. Just when Kaido was getting impatient, the ant excitedly retorted, "No. Oh no. Don't ask me. Kaido, is this old woman sick again?" After hanging up the phone depressed, Kaido turned his eyes to Jean and said helplessly, "You also saw that you can't get anything out of that old woman. Then we can only find the son of the devil." Jean also nodded depressedly and then asked, "By the way, Master Yamato, do you really not care about him?" Hearing this familiar name, thinking of his stupid son, Kaido's face darkened again. Kaido complained with tears in his eyes, "Wu Jin, I am such a failure as a father." Although Yamato no longer worships Kazuki Oden, he is inexplicably obsessed with something called Saint. Jin's mouth twitched slightly. When he was a child, Yamato often called himself Kazuki Oden because he worshipped Kazuki Oden. Later, one day, Yamato finally stopped worshipping Kazuki Oden. But every day he clamored to go out to sea to follow the saint and become a legend. How could Kaido allow this to happen? So Yamato was locked up again. Jean bit the bullet and argued, maybe Master Yamato's way of filial piety is different. Kaido, more than different. That's simply filial piety to death. After leaving Alabasta, the Straw Hat Pirates continued their adventure. On the Mary. Wasn't the treasure map what you gave Wei in the end? Nami looked at Robin with a suspicious look. Looking at Robin, who was silent, Nami said angrily, "Okay, you are a traitor who actually colluded with outsiders to eat the treasure alone." Robin suddenly felt that it might not be the right choice to rush on the ship. Thinking of this, Robin glanced at Zoro, who was doing push-ups crazily, and then glanced at Sanji, who was looking at this side with a squinting look. And the reindeer doctor, the captain who looked very stupid. Robin thought silently in his heart, "It's better to be stupid. Only such a fool will not betray me, right?" Robin looked at Crocodile, who was lying on the beach chair reading a newspaper. "Sand Crocodile, why did you also get on the boat?" Crocodile closed the newspaper and said nonchalantly, "I just took a ride. After all, you don't want me to stay in Alabasta, right? And do you talk to your former boss in such a tone? His Shichibukai title has been revoked, and even his subordinates have been arrested or left." In order to make a comeback, Crocodile decided to go to New World to recruit crew members. But because of a slight reason in Alabasta, he certainly couldn't rob there, so Crocodile had to take a ride. Robin said expressionlessly, "You also said it was the former boss." Boom! A giant suddenly fell from the sky and hit the sea in front. The huge waves were set off, and the people who were caught off guard by this sudden change. Crocodile got up from the ground and asked gloomily, What's going on? Sea Kings. Nami, who was in charge of the helm, shook her head and explained, No. It seems that something fell from the sky. As soon as Nami finished speaking, a terrifying cold air swept over, and everyone on the Straw Hat Pirates shuddered. The clear sea suddenly froze, and even filled with white cold mist. Top, top, top. The sound of high heels hitting the ice surface came from far away, and everyone could see a figure with a voluptuous figure that was not like a picture slowly approaching this side in the hazy white mist. Everyone stared at the mysterious existence who was not sure whether it was an enemy or a friend. Seeing this, Nick Robin quickly activated the power of the flower fruit to confirm the other party's appearance. Albia, Nico Albia. As if seeing something terrifying, Robin retracted the fruit power or couldn't help but take a step back. How is it possible? My mother died a long time ago. How could I see her here? Robin muttered to himself in disbelief. Luffy, clenching his fists, couldn't wait to ask, Is it an enemy? Robin shook his head and then looked at the woman who was getting closer and closer to the beauty. Nicole Albia, is it you? Robin thought with a slight tremor. The mysterious woman with ice blue hair, wearing a uniform that looked a bit like a marine, laughed softly. Ha ha, little Robin, except for the different hair color. You and your mother are really alike. Robin looked at the mysterious woman in front of him in disbelief and asked, You are me? According to seniority, I should be considered your aunt. The mysterious woman introduced herself. Crocodile couldn't help but look at Robin after hearing this. Every cell in his body was frantically warning him to stay away from this woman. The other party was clearly standing there, but he couldn't feel any trace of her existence. And the vague sense of oppression made Crocodile realize that the other party was definitely not weaker than himself. You have such a great relative. Do you need to come to me to work for me and seek shelter? Crocodile complained in his heart. Chapter 39. Robin's Anaists? Who are you? Robin looked at the woman who looked at least 70% like her mother. Ace introduced himself very seriously. Ace. Now I'm Ace. As for my original name? Nicole Oelia, but I haven't used this name for at least 30 years. Nicole Oelia. Robin's eyes were a little dazed when he heard this name. He vaguely remembered that his mother did mention this name. I remember it. When she met her mother for the last time, she said, Robin, go find someone named Wu Ming. He can protect you. And tell Oelia that I don't regret it. Robin looked at Ace nervously and asked, Where have you been all these years? What do you want to do with me? Robin didn't believe in family affection, or, to be more precise, she didn't believe in the unattainable family affection. She didn't dare to guarantee that the woman who claimed to be her aunt would capture her in exchange for the bounty. I just pass by occasionally. As for where I've been these years, I'm practicing in seclusion. Ace said as he boarded the Mary. Ace squinted his eyes and looked at the Straw Hat crew and asked, You seem to be very unwelcome to me? Nami directly expressed her displeasure. Angrily, Nami said, Who would welcome a woman of unknown origin like you? Ace commented coldly. Is this the companion you're looking for? She's quite spirited, but lacks a little education, the education that the weak should respect the strong. Zoro, who looked unhappy, said with a fierce fighting spirit, Who are you talking about who lacks education? Looking at the sword hanging on your waist, you are also a swordsman, right? Let's have a fight. This is the first time I've seen a female swordsman like you. Ace tilted his head and asked, Are you the Zoro with a sword in your mouth? I heard Kuina mention you. Do you want to be the world's #1 swordsman? Ace said, slowly pulling out the rapier hanging on his waist. Ace was speaking in a very cold tone and said very politely, There is nothing good to give you for the first meeting, so I will give you a defeat. Crocodile silently stepped aside when he saw this. He certainly liked the fact that there was a kid who didn't know how to live or die and was willing to test this mysterious strong man. As Zoro's companions, Luffy and others certainly knew what Zoro was pursuing. Everyone silently made enough space, including Robin. Faced with the unknown family affection and the companions of his own choice, Robin undoubtedly chose the latter. Zoro looked at Ace with excitement. This was the first time he met a female swordsman who was stronger than himself. This time he wanted to see how far the female swordsman could go on behalf of Quina. As for whether it was a bit bad to cut women, sorry. Zoro only had swordsmen in his eyes, not men and women. Three-sword style demon slash. Facing Zoro's three-sword style, Asides coldly clicked the channel. Is it the iron slashing realm? Not bad. Crack. Zoro went up, and Zoro fell again. Zoro fell to the ground with blood splattered on his chest, and his face was full of unwillingness. So strong. Zoro whispered with unwillingness. Before losing consciousness completely, Zoro thought, Quina, did you see it? A female swordsman can be so strong. Just when the battle ended, Crocodile next to him took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Crescent-shaped sand dunes. Crocodile shouted excitedly. Freeze! A gust of cold air blew, and Crocodile was instantly frozen. Crocodile, who was still smiling excitedly, was frozen in place. Although he was frozen, he did not lose consciousness. Crocodile and the ice ball had a look of disbelief in his eyes. A person with special abilities? But how could a person with special abilities touch the sea surface? Crocodile was full of doubts at this moment. Ace did not kill him. After all, this was his niece's ship, so he had to give her some face. Robin, your crew seems a little rude. Ace looked at Robin meaningfully and said, Robin replied coldly. He is just my former boss, not my companion. Really? For the sake of his protection of you, should I forgive him once? Ace had obviously heard of Crocodile. After Ace finished speaking, he snapped his fingers lightly, and the ice ball shattered instantly. After Crocodile regained its freedom, it lay weakly on the deck. At this time, Luffy realized that Ace and Robin were not as close as he imagined, and stood silently in front of Robin. Luffy asked with a serious face, Auntie, what do you want to do? This was a rare, serious expression of Luffy, and Nami next to him looked at Luffy with worry. Ace explained casually, just passing by. And by the way, I came to see my useless niece. Robin looked at Ace in front of him with complicated eyes and said, You seem to be very familiar with me, but I have never seen you. Ace said, Not very familiar. I just came out of retreat not long ago. And by the way, I asked my subordinates to understand your situation in recent years. I am very sorry for the death of your mother. If I hadn't retreated, she would not have died. Robin listened and remembered her mother's advice to her. Robin said seriously, My mother said she doesn't regret it. Really? That's really stupid. Ace curled his lips. Looking at Ace, who didn't care, Robin couldn't help asking, Are there any misunderstandings or conflicts between you and my mother? Ace said coldly, There is no bloody misunderstanding. She simply chose the mission and I chose power. When the man came to O'Hara, the two sisters fell in love with him. The elder sister who pursued the mission did not follow the man, but she who pursued power and had eyes for the man chose to leave O'Hara with the man. Chapter 40. The Straw Hat Pirates are shocked to hear about the Imperial weapon. Mission. Hearing this word, Robin smiled bitterly. Then is the history of the Void Century really that important? Is it really worth so many people sacrificing? You are right. Robin looked at Ace deeply. After wandering on the sea for so long, jumping back and forth between so many forces, Robin, who was frightened every day when he was weak, knew too well the importance of strength. Crocodile, lying weakly on the ground, roared in disbelief. Woman, you are obviously a person with special abilities. Why can you swim in the sea? Ace, who was interrupted, looked at Crocodile in surprise, as if he had just discovered that there was such a person next to him. In addition to anger, Crocodile also felt unwilling. Talk about Shichibukai himself. Although it is in the past tense, why was he killed in seconds by a woman when he met her? It must be because this woman's devil fruit has no side effects. Yes, it must be because of this. Crocodile kept self-hypnosis in his heart, just unwilling to admit that he was killed in seconds by a woman he just met. Ace, with his arms crossed, jokingly asked back, Who told you that I have the power of demon fruit? Hearing this, Crocodile asked in disbelief, Aren't you a user of the cold fruit? Me? Cold fruit. Ace couldn't help but chuckle. Isn't it? You are Robin's aunt. You know Chinese characters, you got the treasure left by the saint, and then found a way to be immune to the side effects of devil fruit. Am I right? Crocodile asked in a positive tone. Even if the owner of the diary came today, he would say that being a woman must have got the secret treasure left by the owner of the diary. Saying, hearing this familiar title, Ace nodded in sudden realization and then said, I think I know what's going on, but I haven't eaten devil fruit. The saint you mentioned used other methods to give me abilities similar to devil fruit. Robin also looked at his aunt in surprise and then guessed, isn't it eating devil fruit? Is it the sun disk? Sun disk? Are you talking about the ascenders? Ace narrowed his eyes and looked at Robin. It seems that you have found something extraordinary in Alabasta. Ace looked at the Straw Hat crew, and there was already some appreciation in his eyes. Under Wu Ming's great destiny technique, only the people of destiny have the possibility of discovering the secret treasures or knowledge he left behind. What is the people of destiny? That is, only those who are worthy of Wu Ming, the chess player, to personally guide and command are qualified to be called the people of destiny. As for the non-people of destiny, such people are consumables that are not worth mentioning in the eyes of Ace. Having followed Wu Ming for a while and seen too much darkness in this world, Ace knew too well how cheap, worthless people were in this world. Seeing Ace's reaction, Robin took the opportunity to test him. From what you said, your ability does not come from the sun disk? Ace nodded as a matter of course. Of course, Alabasta is Sataka's territory. Without special reasons, I will not go to Alabasta. Wu Ming's layout started 300 years ago. In order to prevent the various chess pieces from affecting each other, those who are close to Wu Ming generally do not contact those people of destiny, Wu Ming's chess pieces, at will. Crocodile, with a cunning look in his eyes, took the opportunity to ask, then what is your ability? Ace said, my ability comes from the Imperial equipment. As for what the Imperial equipment is, you can find the answer yourself. If you are lucky, you may be able to obtain 1 or 2 Imperial equipment. By the way, Imperial equipment is a very special weapon. Some of them are no less than the supreme sword for swordsmen. You can go and look for them when the time comes. Ace suggested again. Ace asked, okay, Robin, do you want to leave with me? With my current strength, I can protect you and let you sail freely on this sea. Robin was a little moved, and then he couldn't help but look at Luffy. Thinking of Luffy's back blocking in front of him without hesitation, Robin shook his head firmly. My choice is the same as my mother. I want to inherit her mission and pursue the truth of history. Ace shook his head helplessly and sighed. It seems that you are as stubborn as your mother. In this case, then you could do what you want. Although your companions are quite rude, I will give you a gift before you leave. After Ace finished speaking, the momentum on his body pressed down on the surroundings. The invisible oppressive force was like a substance, making all conscious people present feel like they were facing a great enemy. The weak, such as Nami, Chopper, and Usopp, were stunned by this terrifying conqueror's haki. Experience your own insignificance. The new world is very dangerous. Ace has disappeared, but his words are still echoing in the ears of the Straw Hats. Nami, Chopper, Luffy, and Sanji, who were still awake, looked at Nami lying on the deck with grief and anger. Straw Hat, stop howling. Crocodile explained weakly. Your companions are fine. They were just knocked unconscious by that woman's conqueror's haki. In the new world, trash like your 3 companions don't even have the qualifications to stand in front of the real king. This conqueror's haki is even stronger than Whitebeard's. A gloomy look flashed across Crocodile's face, and Crocodile was also shocked by his own thoughts. How is it possible? Whitebeard is known as the strongest man in the world. How can a mere woman compare to Whitebeard? Crocodile quickly stopped his crazy and unrealistic speculation. Chapter 41. This is part of the plan. Haki? I seem to have heard of this name. Luffy looked at Crocodile thoughtfully. Today, Ace gave them a very strong sense of oppression, and the difference between the sun and the moon and the firefly was visible to the naked eye. Crocodile lit a cigar for himself again and said arrogantly, "Don't ask Lousy. Lousy is only interested in the Imperial equipment that the woman mentioned now." Robin sighed sincerely. The Imperial equipment was also left by that saint. It's incredible. Even Vegapunk wouldn't have such amazing wisdom, right? Sanji looked at the direction where Ace left and asked, but did that woman really just pass by just now? Robin looked at the still frozen sea surface and said, such a strong man should not have any need to lie to us. Crocodile gritted his teeth and said, come here to give us a warning. That woman is really arrogant. Sanji denied without giving face. You are not in the same group with us. But why did you sneak attack her just now? Sanji looked at Crocodile curiously. Crocodile said seriously, the opponent's strength is not weaker than mine. If the opponent has ill intentions towards me, the time I took action just now is the best time. Sanji, eliminate potential crises in advance. Aren't you worried about your own misjudgment? What if the other party is a good person? Crocodile sneered, and then replied coldly, as long as she is dead, I have the final say on good and bad people. Sanji nodded, and then looked at Crocodile deeply. This is a real pirate, Luffy. No, our captain can only be regarded as an adventurer at best. But what if you encounter the situation just now? The other party is stronger than you and has no ill intentions towards you. Sanji continued to argue. Then accept your fate. On this sea, sometimes you have to accept your fate and then think of other ways. After Crocodile finished speaking, he left the deck without looking back. It was because he accepted his fate and knew that no matter how hard he tried to become stronger, he could never be a match for Whitebeard. So he pursued the illusory Pluton. In other words, he lost all his spirit when fighting Whitebeard. West Blue the Old and dying Hanfeng was in the yard. Under the shade of the big tree, he looked at the children chasing and playing in the yard with a smile on his face. After his heart was replaced, he no longer practiced the ice breathing method. His strength was declining every day, but his human perception and emotions were returning every day. Looking at such a warm scene, Hanfeng felt that he had no regrets in his life. He could no longer remember which generation these children were his great-great-grandchildren, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that the family was prosperous and they were no longer living as slaves. Ka. The small door of the yard was pushed open, and a tall figure walked in from outside. The first thing Kazan saw when he entered the yard was Hanfeng lying on the recliner. The little radishes playing in the yard returned excitedly when they saw the newcomer. Uncle Kazan, why are you back today? Uncle Kazan, I want to be a Marine. Take me to be a Marine. Uncle Kazan, did you bring any gifts back? As soon as he entered the yard, Kazan was surrounded by a group of little kids, and then like a group of ducks, he kept telling them what he wanted. Some of these kids were his eldest brother's children, and some were his cousin's children. Since they often didn't come home, Kazan couldn't recognize every one of them. Kazan tried to speak in a gentle tone. Be good, go play somewhere else first. Uncle has something to do. The little kids were also very obedient, and they all left the yard in a swarm. Kazan said in a complicated tone, you are really my ancestor. Of course. Hanfeng nodded as a matter of course. Kazan frowned and asked, your current state is not right, and your strength is dropping too fast, isn't it? Hanfeng shook his hand casually and comforted him. This is the price of strength. For someone like me with mediocre talent, if I just rely on time to practice, I can't reach the admiral level even if I practice for 1,000 years. Kazan continued to ask, is it because of the heart? Hanfeng shook his head and explained, the heart is the source of the ice breathing method. And more importantly, it's because I don't want to continue living. The highest level of ice breathing method is to condense an ice heart, which is the source of power and the core of power. Hanfeng continued to explain. Kazan nodded thoughtfully, and then asked, so you gave me the ice heart, which is equivalent to transferring the power of 600 years of practice to me? Hanfeng admitted almost, but it still requires a process of adaptation. But I don't know how to breathe ice. Kazan frowned and retorted. Hanfeng continued to explain with a kind smile on his face. The ice heart will adapt to you, and then you'll be able to instinctively operate the ice breathing method that is most suitable for your practice. You came back not just because of the ice heart, right? Hanfeng asked in an affirmative tone. Kazan did not hide his purpose and directly tested. Is the notebook you left for me true? Of course it is true, but the question is, are you really ready? Do you have that awareness? Han Feng asked meaningfully. Seeing Han Feng nodded in acknowledgement, Kazan asked again, "Is the person you follow still alive now?" Han Feng nodded in acknowledgement. "Of course, the saints are immortal. I am still alive, and the saints are of course still here." Seeing this, Kazan finally expressed the worries that had been accumulating in his heart. "Then I took away the military power of 200,000 troops and went to do my own thing. Are you sure that the family will not be implicated by me?" Han Feng smiled meaningfully, then shook his head and said, "No, because this is part of the plan." Chapter 42. Kazan. "I'm sorry, Marshal. They gave too much." Kazan remained silent. "Part of the plan? Why does the mastermind trust me so much?" Thinking of this, Kazan couldn't help asking, "Is there no bottom line?" Hearing this, Han Feng warned him very seriously, "Don't forget your birth. We can't work for the world government, even if we die. If you dare to take the Ice Legion to join the world government, you will definitely be the first to die. People can't forget their roots." This is a sentence that the saints often taught him. Han Feng deeply agrees with this sentence. Kazan nodded thoughtfully. He seemed to know why the mastermind trusted him so much. With 200,000 troops in hand, even if he did nothing, as long as he didn't join the world government, he would be the one the world government wanted to eliminate the most, and even the New World 4 emperors would have to be behind him. The only one who could be compared with him was probably the dragon of the Revolutionary Army. Thinking of this, Kazan was relieved. Unless he can ignore the 200,000 troops, no matter what he chooses, he can only become that person's pawn to fight against the world government. Kazan, who had already made up his mind, looked at Han Feng seriously and asked word by word, "What if I want to lead them to establish a new marine?" Han Feng smiled and said directly, "Then I suggest you start with West Blue. After all, this is our base." The expected opposition did not appear, and Han Feng gave him advice, which means that the person behind the scenes is actually very happy to see the birth of the new marine. The birth of a new marine is also a provocation and blow to the marine. Then we will use East Blue as the starting point and radiate to the other 4 seas. I can't guarantee the others. In West Blue, unless the person behind the world government takes action, West Blue will be overturned in the thought of the Ice Legion. Han Feng promised again. Looking at Han Feng, who gave him advice, Kazan exhaled heavily. "How should I take over the Ice Legion?" Kazan asked. Han Feng did not answer directly, but pointed to the black pager on the coffee table next to him. Han Feng explained, "This thing is the communicator of the Frost Legion, similar to the Den Den Mushi. The advantage is that it can avoid being monitored by the world government. The disadvantage is that every word said in the pager will be recorded at the main station." Technological Krizischen. Kazan looked at the communicator on the coffee table thoughtfully. Kazan picked up the communicator, curiously checked it, and then commented, "This thing is quite interesting. It seems that there are still many excellent scientists in the sea." Han Feng sneered. "This is an invention that is not worth mentioning among the thousands of inventions of the saints. Here you go." Han Feng took out another recording pointer and gave it to Kazan. "This is the permanent recording pointer of Frost Island. When you go there, you can use the communicator to contact the Frost Legion scattered in West Blue. The Legion soldiers who receive the information from the communicator will gather there." Han Feng explained it. "Thank you." Kazan thanked the pointer. Kazan turned around and walked away with the pointer. When he reached the door, Kazan warned, "No matter what the person behind the scenes wants to do, the new Marine only wants to do one thing. That is to suppress all criminals on the sea. I am not interested in power struggles." Han Feng smiled with relief. "Of course, continue to pursue your justice." Kazan nodded silently. As Kazan's footsteps gradually faded away, the temperature in the yard suddenly dropped several degrees, and a white-haired old woman suddenly appeared in the yard. The old woman looked at the half-open door of the yard with some concern and asked, "Can the child fulfill his destiny?" "Of course. Kazan is the most talented descendant of our Han Feng family in 300 years, and..." Han Feng glanced at the sunny sky and then said with a look of longing, "The saint will not be wrong. No matter what choice Kazan makes, he will fulfill the destiny that the saint has already arranged for him." The old woman sighed, "Yes. 300 years of grace. We owe the saint too much. I just hope that Kazan will not disappoint the saint." The old woman suddenly changed the subject and complained, "You conscienceless. Have you really decided to leave?" Han Feng apologized embarrassedly. "It's time to go, but it's hard for you to stay in this world. Go to hell. You're tired of living, and so am I." The old woman tapped Han Feng gently with her cane, and then suddenly asked vigilantly, "UBD, you won't be in a hurry to go Rukongai. Are you looking for your old lover?" Han Feng jumped up from his chair at a speed that an old man shouldn't have, and righteously scolded, "Slander! Blatant slander! You are my only wife. Where did you come from?" Han Feng explained, "Didn't the higher-ups recently advocate going to the underworld for large-scale development? I thought you might need me more there." "False." The old woman quickly pinched Han Feng's mouth, looked around carefully, and scanned with her sight and hearing color to find that there was indeed no one. And then the old woman breathed a sigh of relief. The old woman gnashed her teeth and scolded, "Why are you so loud? Old BD, what if someone hears it? This is top secret." "Hee, am I not too excited?" Han Feng smiled awkwardly, then quickly changed the subject and asked, "How is the little girl you observed?" The old woman curled her lips and couldn't help complaining. "That girl is not strong enough, and a good fruit was wasted in vain. But speaking of it, devil fruit is really unreasonable, and it's inexplicable to pick the host. Devil fruit chooses its host. Who can predict fate except saints?" Han Feng comforted. The old woman complained, Snow fruit was played by that girl like a Zoan fantasy beast. My wife feels like a cardiac arrest every time she sees it." Chapter 43. The Time Traveler's Diary obtained by Kizaru. Those who practice the ice-breathing technique from the Dajira wolf have been pursuing devil fruits related to coldness all their lives, because devil fruits related to coldness are really helpful to the ice-breathing technique. And the most important thing is that as long as you eat devil fruits related to coldness, you will be immune to the side effects of the ice-breathing technique. You should know that the people who came from the Dajira wolf have developed more than 400 families. Why don't the descendants of these families practice the ice-breathing technique? It's because they're afraid of side effects. But if there's a devil fruit related to coldness, it will be different. For example, Monet, the user of the snow fruit, if it weren't for the saints saying that Monet had a destiny, Monet would have died in an accident long ago. Han Feng said with some relief in his tone, "I heard that the Ice Stream clan discovered the cold fruit, and the Snowfield clan even discovered the Zoan fantasy beast snowman fruit. Fortunately, Kazan, the younger generation, is doing well." The old woman asked in surprise, "It seems that the Snowfield twins have joined the Frost Legion." "Yes, the deputy commander of the Iceberg Legion. The two children seem to be only 12 years old this year." Han Feng nodded with some envy. After Kazan left the family residence, he rode his bicycle alone towards the north. The burning justice is reviving. Naval headquarters. Guion, who was standing at the dock, looked up and muttered to himself, "Akiji Admiral should not come back, right? How scary. I seem to have heard something terrible." A very weird voice came from the side. Kizaru turned into a golden light and fell beside Guion. Guion asked in surprise, "Kizaru Admiral, why are you here?" As for what Kizaru just said, Guion pretended not to hear it. Fortunately, Borsellino did not intend to explore it, but took out a small notebook from his pocket with a smile. "This is a Chinese character notebook that I found recently. Can you help me translate it?" Borsellino looked at Guion expectantly. Guion looked at the old notebook in Kizaru's hand. It can be clearly seen from the thickness and slope that this is not a complete notebook. "No problem." Guion took the notebook and opened it and said, "Do you believe in light?" Kizaru, who thought he was asking him, nodded as a matter of course. "Of course I do. I'm a flash man who ate sparkling fruit. Light is my best weapon." Guion's mouth twitched slightly, and then explained, "I am translating. The first page of this notebook is this paragraph." "Kizaru, I believe it." "Kizaru, Guion Vice Admiral, is this also a translation?" Kizaru asked speechlessly. Guion nodded as a matter of course, and said, "The first page of this notebook says, 'Do you believe in light?' The second page says, 'I believe.'" Kizaru asked with a frivolous face. "It seems that the owner of this diary worships light very much. Is it because sparkling fruit is very strong?" Guillaume did not speak, but continued to translate. When you can use your body to launch an attack at the same speed as the speed of light without your body collapsing, theoretically, you're already invincible, at least in this sea. Kizaru touched his cheeks with both hands and said modestly with a shy face, "How terrible this person is too much praise. I am not invincible. But if you count running away, then I am indeed invincible." Guillaume, ignoring the unserious Kizaru, Guillaume continued to translate. Theoretically, among the three marine admirals, Kizaru Borsellino is the one who wastes the most fruit. After translating to this point, Guillaume, who was afraid that the other party would misunderstand, emphasized, "This is written by the owner of the notebook." Kizaru was not angry, but looked at the notebook in Guillaume's hand seriously and said, "Next, please translate it well. Don't care about my feelings." Intuition told him that the content recorded in this notebook was related to him. Thinking of this, Borsellino also put away the carelessness on his face. Looking at Borsellino's focused expression, Guillaume nodded and continued to translate. "I didn't expect that the ability of Logia sparkling fruit could be discovered in advance on the sea. But what's interesting is that this person is actually going to join the Marine. It would be a waste to give such good materials to the world government. So I tied him up. It's my first time tying someone up, and I'm not very skilled. I think I'll get used to it in the future, and such a good talent should contribute to the progress of the world." Borsellino asked, "How old is this notebook?" Guillaume Vice Admiral can tell. "At least 200 years ago," and Guillaume glanced at the smallest line of words in the lower right corner of the notebook cover and explained with a slight smile, "This should be a diary from 230 years ago, and it's an experimental log." Borsellino asked seriously, "Is it the same person?" "Although I don't want to admit it, this is indeed the time traveler." Guillaume nodded helplessly. 200 years ago, there was a sparkling fruit user who wanted to join the Marine, but this guy got the better of him. It seems that he still wants to study that user. Thinking of this, Borsellino suddenly felt a chill on his back. The owner of the diary was obviously determined to be an enemy of the world government, and the other party had once studied sparkling fruit. If he met him in the future, wouldn't he be defeated? And maybe he wouldn't even have a chance to escape? Thinking of this, Borsellino became anxious. He was eager to know what the owner of the diary had researched. The ability of sparkling fruit to escape is indeed first class, but the problem is that nothing is absolute. Chapter 44. Incredible Sparkling Fruit. Guillaume continued to translate. A misunderstood Kizaru. After a brief study of the sparkling fruit ability users, I discovered an embarrassing fact. That is, when light becomes tangible and material, it loses the speed of light. Kizaru in the plot makes light tangible and material, and then releases it to cause damage, which can also explain why Kizaru's attack speed is so slow. Sure enough, even when science faces devil fruit, science will become weak. Hearing this translation, Borsellino breathed a sigh of relief. Is this normal? I am a sparkling fruit ability user. How can I not know how to develop sparkling fruit? Borsellino thought to himself. Borsellino, no one knows sparkling fruit better than me. Even the owner of the diary can make mistakes sometimes. Borsellino nodded with emotion in his heart, indicating Guillaume to continue translating. Normally, light is unstable because even if it is a wave, it is also a particle. Theoretically, after entering the elemental state, the sparkling fruits ability user should also have this characteristic. But I studied this sparkling fruits ability user and found that he does not have this characteristic, and the structure of his light is very stable and does not show the particle state of the wave. This is unscientific. It even violates physics. Oh, I remember. This is the world of pirates, so it's okay. Borsellino looked at Guillaume with a confused face. He couldn't say that he didn't understand this translation, but he could only say that he had no idea what the owner of the diary was saying. Borsellino asked in confusion, "Are you sure you didn't translate it wrong? Why is his explanation of light different from what I understand?" Guillaume comforted him seriously. "The owner of the diary is not from this world. It's normal for you two to have different ideas." Borsellino nodded, accepting this statement. The gap between people is huge, not to mention that they are from two different worlds. Really people from two different worlds. Just as Guillaume said, the time traveler came from another world, and it was normal for the two to have different development directions in the devil fruit. Take the meatball fruit as an example. Some people play it as a rule system, while others play it as a simple ability to add fat to themselves. Continue translating. I want to know what the owner of the diary thinks of sparkling fruit. Borsellino said. Guillaume nodded and continued to translate. But one thing has not changed. That is, light is still an energy substance. Speaking of energy substances combined with light, I suddenly have a bold idea in my mind. Kizaru. Here it comes. It comes. It comes after all. That familiar bold idea is here. Those who have read the previous notes know that when the owner of the diary has a bold idea, it means that a creation that can shatter people's three views is about to be born. The first time was the six-story Immortal Thief. The second time was the ice-breathing method. What will the third time be? And it is still aimed at the development of sparkling fruit. Kizura looked at Guillaume with great anticipation. To be honest, any scraps of the diary owner could be a treasure to him. After all, he really has sparkling fruit now. If it was just about the development of sparkling fruit, he could almost perfectly replicate it, even as long as there was a direction. Unlike the excited Kizuru, Guillaume was much calmer, because he could clearly feel that several pages behind this page were torn. Kizuru Admiral's expectations are doomed to fail. Guillaume thought to himself, successful, after letting sparkling fruit enter the elemental state, I forcibly took out some light energy particles from him. The most incredible thing is that this kind of particle is a very stable existence as an energy source. What does this mean? It means that with my heaven-defying understanding, I will bring a new race to this sea. A brand new race that is even qualified to be called God. After hearing this translation, Borsellino was like constipated and the facial features on his face were twisted together. I came to listen to you talk about the development of sparkling fruit's abilities. Why did you inexplicably talk about a brand new race? Do all of you otherworld people have such a wacky mind? Borsellino was completely numb. Borsellino asked depressedly, Guillaume, are you sure you didn't miss anything in the middle? Guillaume nodded and then explained. There should be some content in the middle, but it seems to have been torn off. After Guillaume finished speaking, he showed Borsellino the torn pages. Borsellino could only accept this fact depressedly. Kizaru Admiral, I think we should be concerned about the race that can be called God now. You know, he was born from your sparkling fruit. Borsellino reminded. Guillaume Vice Admiral. Borsellino looked at Guillaume with a complicated look and then sighed. Although I have sparkling fruit, I don't have the divine talent of that time traveler. Now I can't even develop devil fruit. And you still expect me to do scientific research? Guillaume, who understood the hidden meaning of Kizaru's words, smiled sheepishly and said, Okay, I'll continue translating. Chapter 45, God's Talent. Damn it. Fail. Speechless. Failed again. Today is another day of failure. Guillaume had a dark face and posted several pages in a row before seeing new content. Even through the diary, Borsellino could hear that the owner of the diary was full of resentment. Borsellino gloated. It seems that the progress of the diary owner's new race creation is not very good. Did it fail? Guillaume did not speak because she wanted to translate the new content. After failing more than 100 times, I suddenly found a very serious problem. That is, with a normal human body, is it not enough to carry light energy particles? So should I try other races? Let's try it. It's a bit difficult to collect some special races without attracting the attention of the world government, but the difficulty is not great. Long-handed tribe, failed. Long-legged tribe, failed. Mermaid tribe, failed. Mouth tribe, failed. Fur tribe, half successful. Giant tribe, more successful than half successful. At this moment, Borsellino's face no longer had the gloating look just now. Borsellino said solemnly, The owner of this diary has developed a powerful force hidden in the dark at this time, or even multiple. Guillaume may not have found the key point when translating, but as a Marine Admiral, although he usually likes to slack off, it does not mean that Kizuru is not a qualified Marine Admiral. Guillaume only saw the constant failures of the diary owner, but Borsellino saw more. What can support the diary owner to fail so many times and continue the research is immeasurable wealth. What can support the owner of the diary to collect so many rare races is immeasurable huge power. What's more terrifying is that if it weren't for the appearance of the diary, the world government might have been kept in the dark and then inexplicably overthrown one day. Kizaru even suspected that the appearance of the diary might be due to the time being up, and the owner of the diary deliberately leaked it. The owner of the diary is so scary. Borsellino murmured to himself in a low voice, this time no longer sarcastic, but sincere worry. The reason why the fur tribe can succeed may be because they rely on their bodies to emit static electricity all year round, which makes their body cells more tolerant than ordinary people. But what about the giants? However, objectively speaking, the racial ability of the giants is indeed stronger than that of ordinary people, with a lifespan that exceeds 3 times that of humans, and their height can even reach 12 meters after adulthood. In order to support such a huge body, the consumption of the giants will be stronger than that of ordinary people, and the strength of the cells will be the same. What is really incredible is that the giants are more adapted to light energy particles than the furs. It seems that my plan to create a giant of light will fall on the giants. After translating to this point, Guillaume suddenly realized, so that's it. The owner of this diary wants to use light energy particles to strengthen the human body so that humans can gain the power of light. Borsellino frowned and thought, it's broken. My sparkling fruit seems to be everywhere. If the plan of the owner of the diary is really successful, does it mean that every light giant has a sparkling fruit? If that's the case, isn't it too outrageous? Borsellino sincerely praised, this is the talent of God. It's really not something that ordinary people like me can figure out. Borsellino urged, what's next? Has the light giant clan been born? Guillaume could only bury his head and continue translating. After confirming the research direction, everything became much smoother. When the carrier that can carry light energy particles is found, the next thing to solve is the problem of light energy conversion. Demon fruit power can be transformed between elements and normal bodies. As long as I can explore the secret, the light giant clan can be officially born. Devil fruit. It's really a miracle of the world. No wonder the technology in this world is so crooked. With a miracle like devil fruit, it seems that no matter what happens, it's not too outrageous. Element transformation. Such an ordinary ability actually hides such important knowledge and secrets. Borsellino rubbed his chin with his hand. Failed again. The light energy particles are too violent and unstable. But as a user of the earth fruit, I can turn into rocks, soil, and even sand when I transform into elements. These substances seem to be more stable than light energy particles. Maybe I should change direction and study myself, by the way. Guillaume, Borsellino, both of them were shocked after hearing this translation. Crazy. Too crazy. The owner of this diary is simply too crazy. It's understandable to study others, but this crazy guy doesn't even let himself go. And the user of the earth fruit. Guillaume, have you heard of such an outrageous devil fruit? Borsellino asked. Guillaume analyzed seriously. This kind of fruit should not have been born in the sea, but this fruit should be a higher level fruit of sand fruit. Borsellino nodded in agreement. Being able to transform into 3 elements at the same time, does that mean that the other party can at least control sand, rocks, and soil at will? Such an outrageous composite fruit is simply unheard of and unseen. Strictly speaking, Akainu's lava fruit is actually a composite fruit, but Akainu can never decompose the power of lava into fire and earth. Chapter 46. The Origin of the Kingdom of Light. The owner of this diary has become a person with special abilities. I don't know when he became one. Borsellino sighed. There are so many things that could happen in such a long time, nearly 80 years apart. Guillaume comforted. This is a problem that the world government should worry about. Kizaru shrugged his shoulders in disapproval. Guillaume's words were correct. Borsellino, who was doing nothing, nodded in agreement. I am just a marine admiral who gets paid. This kind of problem really has nothing to do with me. Borsellino said, continue translating. I am too interested in the race of the light giant. Guillaume nodded and continued translating. Genetic modification failed. The research from the cell aspect is wrong, or the research from the genetic modification aspect is wrong. A cell being able to withstand light particles and the whole body being able to have light particles are two different concepts, not to mention the conversion problem. Failed again. Guillaume did not find it strange. After all, this experiment sounded very bold and incredible. If this experiment really succeeded, giants who ate sparkling fruit and in batches. This scene is creepy just thinking about it. Since genetic modification doesn't work, then start from other aspects. Can I create a pure source of light and then use the radiation energy of the source of light to upgrade the giants to the direction of light giants? Although passive evolution and active evolution are both evolution under artificial intervention, the latter is no longer feasible. Giant source of light. Borsellino silently memorized this name in his heart, and Guillaume continued to turn the pages. After skipping a lot of meaningless content, Guillaume finally found what he wanted. Using the awakener of sparkling fruit as the main consumable, I finally got the source of light I wanted. If this thing is absorbed by the ability of sparkling fruit, it will make the sparkling fruit ability user have the characteristics of a psychic fruit ability user. However, sparkling fruit should have been reborn now and then discovered and eaten by Kizaru 200 years later. The combination of Logia devil fruit plus Paramecia devil fruit. This is the miracle of light, the source of light. After listening to this translation, Borsellino's breathing became rapid. Sure enough, whenever the words, "I have a bold idea," appear in the diary, the value of this diary will increase countless dimensions. The miracle of light, the source of light. Guillaume complained, but psychic type should not be able to beat Logia, right? No, that's not the way to compare. Borsellino shook his head and explained, if Logia devil fruit is the power of law, then psychic type devil fruit is the power of rules. Many Paramecia evil ability users have the ability to subvert rules, such as Tyrant Bear, one of the Shichibukai, whose meatball fruit has the ability to subvert rules. Looking at Gon, who looked confused, Borsellino slowly stretched out his right hand and said, "Look, this is the power of my ability to control light. If my sparkling fruit is Paramecia devil fruit, then I can kill people with my eyes because eyes are also light." Borsellino sincerely requested, "Anyway, please tell me where this source of light is. It is very useful to me." Borsellino is still a little confident in his own strength. As long as he knows where the source of light is, even if he can't rob it, he can steal it himself, right? As a sparkling fruit ability user, it is too easy to escape after stealing something. After arriving at the new island, I named it M78 and then started this huge project that may last for hundreds of years. I will build a plasma spark tower on this island. The plasma spark tower with the source of light as the core will bring the light of evolution to the world when it flashes. But before that, I have to collect more giant children to this island. After all, this will be the country of light that I built with my own hands. The geographical advantage of being in the windless zone means that the country of light does not have to worry about being harassed by the city and county governments within 200 years. In addition, the country is closed to the outside world, and I believe that the world government should not pay attention to this island. Windless zone? This is really troublesome. Borsellino silently memorized this location in his heart. However, the windless zone is not an accurate geographical name. The area it covers is too large. If you want to find an island in the windless zone, the difficulty is actually no less than finding a needle in a haystack. What's more, the calm zone is the nightmare of all ships, and he is the demon fruit power. If he rashly enters the calm zone, Borsellino feels that the chance of his death at the bottom of the sea is greater than the chance of finding the island. Kizaru Admiral, the notebook has been translated. Guillaume returned the notebook to Kizaru and asked curiously, "Kizaru Admiral, where did you get this notebook? The content of this notebook is quite suitable for you, but I feel that this is too coincidental, as if this diary was prepared for you." Borsellino explained, "This is what my grandfather left behind. My grandfather is an adventurer, and this notebook is also of archaeological value. After all, it is something from more than 200 years ago and there's a kind of text recorded on it. So this notebook has been kept by my family. I only recently learned that the text on it is called Chinese characters. So I went back to my hometown and brought this notebook to you for translation. Guillaume nodded, but did not really believe what Kizaru said. Guillaume did not believe that this notebook was accidentally obtained by Kizaru's ancestor. If nothing unexpected happens, Admiral Kizaru may be the second Akiji. Thinking of this, Guillaume already felt a little sympathetic to Marshal Sengoku. Chapter 47. King Kong and Skull Island. But what does all this have to do with her, Guillaume? She is just a small Marine Vice Admiral. Should I report this to Marshal Sengoku? I am so confused. Kizaru shook his head and went to the office of the Marine Marshal. Compared to the careless Garp, Kizaru was more polite when entering the Marshal's office. Marshal Sengoku, Kizaru reports. Sengoku's voice came from the office. Come in. Sengoku squinted at Kizaru, revealing a bit of danger in his eyes. If I remember correctly, you should not have a leave, right? Kizaru dared to ask for leave, and he, Sengoku, dared to take action. No. Kizaru shook his head and explained. It's like this, I picked up a diary, and it seems to be about Chinese characters. After Kizaru finished speaking, he put the diary on the desk. Picked it up. Sengoku looked at Kizaru with an expression of you are teasing me. Can you be more perfunctory? This thing is hard to come by at the world government, but you just picked it up casually, too speechless in his heart. Sengoku asked. You should have looked for Guillaume, right? Kizaru nodded and admitted. I did look for Guillaume Vice Admiral, and I asked him to translate the content on it. The content is roughly. Kizaru relied on his excellent memory to describe what Guillaume translated. Earth fruit. Sengoku was silent and tapped the table with his hand. The source of light and plasma spark tower, etc. Sengoku is not interested in these. As for the light giant, if the owner of the diary really created such a race, the world would have been turned upside down by now. The giants who ate sparkling fruit can also be mass-produced. With the combination of these two, with the current strength of the world government, it is estimated that they can't resist them. Why is there no record of the earth fruit in the devil fruit encyclopedia? A newly born devil fruit? Or did the other party mistake the rock fruit for the earth fruit? And more importantly, being able to perform 3 elements at the same time and control 3 natural elements. This devil fruit has clearly exceeded the standard. 3 fruits. Sengoku quickly put this absurd idea behind him and asked, You report this matter? Do you want to use the power of the world government to search for the island where the source of light may exist in the windless zone? Kizaru nodded. The calm belt is too big. I can't search it all by myself in my lifetime, but the world government is different. I will report this matter. As for how much strength it will have, it depends on the world government's intention. After Sengoku finished speaking, he added, Don't mention taking leave. Garp and Akiji have both taken leave. If you take leave too, then the naval headquarters will only have 2 admiral combat forces. I can understand Akiji taking sick leave. Why can old man Garp also take leave? Didn't he just take leave? Kizaru looked depressed, thinking that Garp's current vacation was just taking his leave. For someone who likes to slack off, having his vacation taken away is worse than being confronted by a minotaur. Sengoku explained, I heard that his father left a treasure, which contains a devil fruit that is very suitable for him. What? Mr. Garp is going to eat devil fruit? Kizaru looked at Sengoku in disbelief. Kizaru couldn't help but complain. Is Mr. Garp trying to have a second spring? Kizaru returned to his office with mixed emotions and then lay directly on the sofa to start working. He was responsible for emergency tasks. If he didn't go out to sea, he would usually be playing around at the naval headquarters. East Blue. Garp ordered with high spirits. Is it the island? Pull the warship over. Boom! A huge rock suddenly flew out from the island and hit the front of the warship heavily. A nearly 50-meter-tall behemoth warned in a low voice. Marine, this island is not the place for you. Garp looked at the behemoth in front of him in surprise, and then asked tentatively, This, a talking gorilla? A mythical beast? It's a titan. After the behemoth finished speaking, its body quickly shrank into a 4-meter-tall bald man, and then jumped onto the deck of the warship on moonwalk. Bogart next to Garp questioned, Titan species? As far as I know, Zoan devil fruit does not have this category of Titan species. The bald man was not angry, but explained confidently, it didn't exist before, but it exists now. The bald man emphasized again, leave here. This island does not welcome any outsiders, whether it is a pirate or marine. Garp also emphasized, what a strong physique. My name is Garp. My father probably left me something on this island, so I have to go up and find it. Hearing this, the bald man's pupils shrank, and then he asked thoughtfully, you can call me King Kong. Who is your father? Garp. It seems to be Wu Ming. King Kong suddenly realized. It turns out that he is a descendant of the saint. He did leave some things here. Seeing King Kong's reaction, Garp knew that things were stable. At least he did not come to the wrong place this time. King Kong said again, you can go to the island, but they can't. This island does not welcome outsiders. This time King Kong's tone became much kinder and even made Garp feel a little cordial. Garp asked, can I take my Bogart with me? He is my right-hand man. Kong glanced at Bogart next to him, then nodded. If there is only one person, it is not impossible. In this way, under the leadership of King Kong, Garp, and Bogart boarded the island that looks a bit like a skull. The name of this island is Skull Island. Without the guidance of the map, outsiders will never find this island in their lifetime. King Kong, who was walking in front, introduced it to the two. Bogart nodded in agreement and said with emotion, this location is indeed quite remote, and the environment is also very extreme. If there were no map guidance and reminders, our warship would have capsized long ago. Chapter 48. The Special Talent of the Iwi People. Of course, this island is isolated from the world, and it's difficult for us to get out. In the past 200 years, only one guy named Machi has left here, but that was many years ago. King Kong said with a smile. Machi. Bogart raised his eyebrows, and then said to himself in confusion, I always feel like I've heard this name somewhere. The name that made him feel familiar was not marine, so it could only be a pirate. As the three of them officially entered the jungle, Bogart discovered the difference between this island and other islands. The plants on this island are larger than those on other islands, and the various insects and animals in it are much larger than those in other places. Bogart whispered to Garp, the environment of the island is so strange. Garp nodded. This island really exudes a kind of weirdness from the inside out. The ridiculously strong guardian, this guardian named King Kong, even if his strength is not at the admiral level, at least it is at the quasi-admiral level. And the plants on this island, these plants look out of place with other plants on East Blue, not to mention those animals and insects. Crack! A huge insect suddenly emerged from the dense forest. It was a huge insect that looked a bit like a stick insect. The insect's hunting target was not other insects, but the three humans. Looking for death, King Kong roared angrily and then punched the insect on the head. The faintly visible black armament hockey made Garp realize that the people on this island also mastered hockey. Cracked green blood splashed, and King Kong shook his hand with impatience. King Kong apologized embarrassedly. Sorry, let the two of you introduce it. As you can see, this island is a bit dangerous. Garp smiled indifferently, and Bogart did not take the danger just now to heart. After all, neither of them was an ordinary person. In this isolated and dangerous jungle, countless strange creatures are hidden. If necessary, I suggest that you keep the observation hockey turned on, King Kong suggested. In order to make the two realize the seriousness of the matter, King Kong added, because there are many poisonous creatures living in this jungle, the poison of some creatures is the most deadly. Hearing this, Garp and Bogart looked at each other and then silently opened observation hockey. To be able to survive in such an environment, the Iwi people may be stronger than imagined. Thinking of this, Bogart was also relieved in his heart. Fortunately, he didn't force his way in just now. Otherwise, they would suffer heavy losses again this time. After walking for nearly half an hour, the group of people saw a village that looked like primitive people. At the entrance of the village stood a huge stone tablet, on which were engraved the Chinese characters that world government was obsessed with. The moment he saw the village again, Garp was attracted by the huge stone tablet. Even Bogart, next to him, inevitably turned his eyes to the stone tablet. The stone tablet recording Chinese characters. The research value is self-evident. Seeing that both of them were attracted by the stone tablet, King Kong explained casually, "This is a stone tablet set up by our ancestors. The content is roughly about the origin of our Iwi tribe and some deeds of that adult. Can you help translate it?" Garp rubbed his chin with his hand and asked with interest. "No problem. After all, it's not a secret." King Kong nodded, and then began to translate the content for the two. "We begged for freedom in slavery, so the saint brought us freedom. We prayed for a place to stay in exile, so the saint gave us Skull Island. We prayed for a place to stay in danger, so the saint gave us King Kong. We sought a future in confusion, so the saint gave us a mission. Slavery." Garp looked at King Kong thoughtfully. King Kong had nothing to hide about the tragic past of his tribe, and said directly, 200 years ago, our ancestors were actually a group of slaves. Slaves of the evil race, celestial dragons. And it was the saints who saved us." Celestial dragons, evil race? Hearing this wonderful combination, Bogart's mouth twitched slightly. Fortunately, the Iwi tribe is isolated from the world, but it is precisely because of the Iwi tribe's isolation that they think celestial dragons are an evil race. After all, on the sea, even pirates dare not call celestial dragons an evil race. After all, they're descendants of God. The slaves 200 years ago survived in this place called Skull Island. The environment of this place is quite harsh and is not suitable for human survival at all. Bogart was thoughtful. Then the key point is the mission. What is the mission of the Iwi tribe on this island? It can't be to wait for the arrival of Chief Garp, right? After all, no matter how powerful the time traveler 200 years ago was, he couldn't predict that he would have a son named Garp 200 years later, right? At this time, King Kong suddenly said, "Our mission is to guard the entrance to the inner world. This is not a secret. After all, the treasure left by the adults is in the inner world." Bogart's pupils shrank when he heard this, and then he looked at King Kong with some fear. At this moment, King Kong's simple smile was extremely gloomy in Bogart's eyes. Chapter 49. Akiji versus the Snowfield Twins. How could it be? Bogart's face was full of disbelief and horror. King Kong explained honestly, "This is a special talent of our Iwi people. Our observation haki can read other people's hearts. It turns out that it is a special observation haki gifted person." Bogart suddenly realized and breathed a sigh of relief. Wait, Bogart suddenly realized the key point of the matter. What did he just say? Is this the racial talent of the Iwi people? The owner of observation haki, who can see through other people's hearts? Born with observation haki? No, the Iwi people were just a group of ordinary people 200 years ago, but they became the so-called Iwi people after they moved to this island. How could such a race have special talents? King Kong explained kindly, "It's the saint. The saint gave us a special mission and also gave us special talents." Bogart, who was red again, didn't dare to have any other thoughts in his heart. After all, there was a mind reader next to him, which made people quite uncomfortable. But why didn't Vice Admiral Garp have his mind read? Bogart couldn't help but glance at the calm Garp. Garp calmly explained, "Observation haki can block observation haki. Although my observation haki has not reached the level of observation killing, it can still block others from exploring my mind." Congo also added, "Observation haki does have this ability. Most of us Iwi people can master this kind of observation haki that blocks other people's mental exploration. After all, we usually communicate with our minds." Bogart, "So I am the only real invisible person?" Looking at the village in front of him, Bogart suddenly didn't want to go in because the Iwi people realized that they seemed to be the only one without clothes. But Bogart, who was very curious about the secrets inside, finally went in. After entering the village, Bogart frowned instinctively. Backward, too backward. This village is like a primitive tribe. Not to mention the traces of civilization, there are no traces of industrial tools here. Even if there are, they're the kind of simple wooden tools that are particularly backward. We are isolated from the world, and it is normal that our technology is backward, right? King Kong explained beside him. Considering the special environmental problems of Skull Island, Bogart also nodded. In such an environment, it is already very difficult to survive, and it is really a pipe dream to develop people's livelihood technology. King Kong said with a smile on his face, and we like our current life very much. I have never seen the prosperity of the outside world, so I will not be dazzled by the prosperity of the outside world. It is normal for a group of ordinary people to be easily satisfied. Ambitious people have left the island long ago. For example, the young man named Monkey was curious about the world outside the island, so he resolutely decided to go to sea. Let's go to build the village chief first. King Kong led the way again. Soon Garp and his party met the village chief mentioned by King Kong, who was a white-haired old man with various tattoos on his face. After seeing Garp and others, he was also very happy and even entertained everyone enthusiastically. At the dinner table, Bogart looked at the primitive delicacies on the table and lost his appetite instantly. But Garp next to him was eating happily. This is a world where you can convert your appetite into strength. One of the main reasons why Garp is so strong is that he can eat. West Blue Frost Island. Ice Cube burst pheasant mouth. Snowball shooting. Ice and snowballs collided in midair, and the two objects with obviously different masses shattered after the collision. Ha ha! I finally met an interesting opponent. Wu Ming. Let's roll two. The biggest snowball in history. A huge snowball grew bigger and bigger under the push of the Snowfield twins, and soon a behemoth with a diameter of more than 30 meters appeared in front of Akiji. What a mess! Akiji sighed depressedly. Frozen time capsule. Kazan released a cold air shock wave from a long distance. The moment they received the cold air, the Snowfield twins were instantly frozen. But after being frozen, the ice was melting at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this familiar scene, Kazan's pupils shrank. He was too familiar with this scene. The cold wind before. No, now it should be called the Ancestor. The Ancestor used this trick to absorb its freezing ability before. Kazan said coldly. Ice breathing. Nunu explained proudly. No, this is the improved frost breathing method, which is a gift unique to our blood twins. Kazan smiled knowingly at Nunu, who seemed to be showing off his favorite toy. Nunu is less than 12 years old this year, and his strength is close to that of a quasi-admiral. This talent can be described as outrageous in the entire ocean. No more fighting, we restrain each other, and it's meaningless to fight anymore. Kazan waved his hand helplessly, indicating a truce. That won't do. We have the ability to control ice and snow. Nunu, who was very competitive, shook his head. Will Lump. Devour. Will Lump came to Kazan at an extremely fast speed, then opened his bloody mouth and bit him viciously. Boom! Will Lump flew backwards at an extremely fast speed, and Kazan, whose right hand was covered with black armament hockey, said, I am not just a frozen fruit ability user. After saying this, Kazan waved his right fist covered with black armament hockey. Nunu, Will Lump hurts. Will Lump looked at Nunu with tears in his eyes. Nunu pouted his lips, then said unhappily, Then forget it today, we're tied. Due to their relatively young age, the Snowfield twins have not officially started to train their bodies, nor have they mastered armament hockey. Knowing this, Nunu did not continue to be stubborn. Seeing that the deputy leader finally gave in, Kazan also breathed a sigh of relief. Now my 200,000 troops should be stable, right? What should the new Marine be called? Thinking of this, Kazan couldn't help but curl up his lips slightly. My burning justice will finally begin to burn. Chapter 50. New Marine starts. Frost Corps Command Room. As the Frost Corps arrived from all over West Blue, Akiji's face became more and more joyful. The Frost Corps' military ranks were based on a decimal system, ranging from decapitation to 10,000-man commander. 20 10,000-man commanders gathered in the command room and waited for Kazan to speak. Marine Admiral Akiji, of course they were familiar with him. After all, Kazan was from West Blue. A captain said with joy on his face, Before, I was wondering why Admiral Akiji, as a frozen fruit user and from West Blue, was not a member of our Frost Corps. I didn't expect that Admiral Akiji would become the leader of our Frost Corps. Another captain agreed and said, yes, but this is reasonable. How could a frozen fruit user from West Blue not be a member of the Glacier Corps? When saying this, the captain's tone was extremely confident, full of pride in his origin, as if he was saying that talents like Akiji were born to be members of their Frost Corps. Kazan looked at the people in the conference room and breathed a sigh of relief. He originally thought that this group of people would be unruly and some would not obey him. But now it seems that I thought too much. Thinking of this, Kazan asked nervously, everyone, I want to use the Frost Legion to establish a new marine. What do you think about this? As the strongest captain of 10,000 men, Han Mang stood up and explained, we can't leave West Blue. The establishment of the Iceberg Legion is to protect the families behind the Frost Legion. This is not that he has any opinion on Kazan. Han Mang actually agrees with Kazan becoming the leader of the Frost Legion. After all, the Frozen Fruit Ability people and the Frost Legion are too compatible. The Frozen Fruit Ability people are simply born leaders of the Ice Legion. As the saying goes, everything can't be forgotten. The roots of the Frost Legion are the 400 families behind them. The purpose of the Ice Legion's existence is to protect the 400 families behind them, and then to overthrow the world government, and all of Akiji's orders must be ranked third. Kazan frowned when he heard this, but Kazan was not surprised. After all, he was not prepared to extend his tentacles to other seas from the beginning. Kazan explained, it is to protect the entire West Blue, or, to be more precise, to control the entire West Blue. The Frost Legion has the support of the 400 families, so he doesn't need to worry about supply consumption. But once the new Marine is established, it will be different. The new Marine cannot rely on the 200,000 Frost Legion alone. It will definitely need to recruit people in the future. As the number of people increases, the 400 families behind the Frost Legion alone will definitely not be able to support the new Marine. At the beginning, the 400 families may be able to help, but as the new Marine expands, this problem will become more and more difficult to solve. So the best way at present is to let the new Marine manage the entire West Blue, and then use the financial resources of the entire West Blue to support the new Marine. When the resources of the new Marine are sufficient, it will be good to extend its tentacles to other seas. A captain of 10,000 men whispered, "Control West Blue?" Someone proposed this suggestion 100 years ago, but it was stopped by the saint. No matter who controls the Frost Legion, ambition will rise involuntarily in their hearts. But these people were extinguished when their ambitions just showed signs. Kazan said, "The Lord should allow us to proceed." Really, the entire conference room exploded instantly. After hiding their identities for so many years, the Frost Legion is finally going to be revealed to the world. Han Mang couldn't wait to say, "If that Lord allows, then we can fully support you." Okay, my arrangement is this. The Frost Legion will take over all the Marine stations in West Blue in groups. It would be even better if we can attract Marines to join our new Marine while taking over the Marine stations. After Kazan finished speaking, he looked at everyone nervously. West Blue is very big, and Marines' influence in West Blue is also very large. But compared with the Frost Legion, it is a dwarf compared to a giant, and the two are not even on the same level. A captain asked, "What about the rest of the people?" Kazan had already made arrangements for this matter, and directly arranged. The extra people will go to those non-member states and invite those islands of non-member states to accept the protection of the new Marine. What if the kings don't cooperate? Kazan said coldly, "If they don't want to leave with dignity, let them leave with dignity. The interests of the king are different from those of ordinary people." In Kazan's new Marine blueprint, the only role of the king is to manage the country, not to protect the country, and the king is not indispensable. Kazan, my plan is this: we will accept all the Marine stations first, and then impose taxes on everyone in West Blue. The name is protection tax. It doesn't need to be too much. 5% of the taxpayer's annual income is enough. A captain couldn't help but complain. Why does this sound a bit like the protection fee of a gang? Kazan's face darkened when he heard this. This is indeed protection money, so there is nothing wrong with people complaining. As a price, We will comprehensively maintain the peace of people in various countries and regions. All crimes are within the scope of our new Marine. Whether it is gangs or pirates, as long as they dare to attack civilians, we will never tolerate it. This is more conscientious than gangs. A captain complained again. The new Marine is now in the stage of crossing the river by feeling the stones. Kazan has only thought of so much. As for the details, we can only wait and improve them slowly in the future. Kazan added, as for the welfare of the new Marine, follow the Marine. Marine is actually a high-paying profession, and even a regular profession. Although the benefits of Marine are not as outrageous as the 5 social insurances and 1 housing fund, there are still basic disability allowances, pensions, monthly salaries, etc., and even officers have pensions. Many prominent Marines join Marine to implement their own justice, but that is the pursuit of real big men. The reason why ordinary people are willing to join Marine is actually just the benefits of Marine. Kazan also knows this, so he chose to copy Marine directly. But this cannot be copied completely, such as the salary issue of Marine. The salary of Marine is paid by world government, but no one in the new Marine pays them. To be precise, the new Marine has no source of money. It is precisely because of this that Kazan thought of collecting protection fees. After all, maintaining justice also requires food. Chapter 51. Kazan, Marshal, please don't contact me anymore. I'm afraid the Saint will misunderstand me. The plan is good, but the Frost Legion doesn't have many high-end combat forces. If world conquest is determined to defeat the new Marine, how should we deal with it then? Han Meng expressed another concern. Everyone who heard this once again turned their attention to Kazan. 200,000 colonel-level combat forces sound very impressive. Even when facing admiral-level strongmen, 200,000 troops can kill several of them. But the problem is that the price is too high. The Frost Legion doesn't want to bear it, let alone bear it. Again, they can sacrifice 1,000 lives for the Saint, but few are willing to fight for Kazan. Kazan also saw this. Just when Kazan didn't know how to fool him, Nunu raised his hand and said, I have a way to solve this problem. My grandfather said that if the Frost Legion really faces the stranglehold of the world government, the Saint will protect the entire West Blue and prevent the high-end combat power of world conquest from entering West Blue. After hearing this, no one in the meeting room spoke up to object. At this moment, even the most dull people could realize that Kazan's establishment of a new Marine was also part of the Saint's plan. Will there be a stronger existence to take action? It seems that this is a sure thing. Kazan quietly breathed a sigh of relief. He never doubted the power of the Saint. If the superficial power of the world government was the only factor, the bridge guard of the Taikila Wolf could have swept the world conquest. Since that person said so, it proves that West Blue will become the sphere of influence of the new Marine. Kazan pleaded sincerely. Then, let's officially start the plan. Everyone, do your job. Prepare to take over all the Marine military bases in West Blue, and try not to cause unnecessary sacrifices if you can avoid casualties. Yes, the 20 captains responded in unison. After all the captains left, Kazan took out the Den Den Mushi. Kazan looked at the Den Den Mushi in his hand, which represented Marine Admiral Akiji, with deep affection and complexity. Alas, people with different ideologies cannot work together. After sighing again, Kazan silently contacted the naval headquarters. After a moment, the call was connected. This is Marshal Sengoku. Sengoku's slightly tired voice came from the Den Den Mushi. After a moment of silence, Kazan said, Marshal Sengoku, I'm Kazan. After hearing that it was Akiji, Sengoku hurriedly asked, Akiji, have you inherited the inheritance? When will you return to naval headquarters? After another short silence, Kazan said in a low voice, Marshal, I may not be able to go back. Sengoku. What? You guys don't want to take a vacation? Sengoku roared angrily. At this moment, Sengoku has not realized the seriousness of the matter. After all, it is not the first time that Kazan has skipped work. No, I want to quit Marine. Do you understand? Marshal Sengoku. Kazan's words this time are extremely firm. What? You want to quit Marine? Sengoku's voice is several decibels higher. The current Marine can't bear my justice at all. Indiscriminately attack innocent civilians, launch a buster call on the world's largest library, and clean up the celestial dragons participating in the hunting sport. Can such a Marine have justice? I can burn my life for justice, but I don't want to burn myself for celestial dragons. Akiji seriously expressed his disappointment in Marine and his disgust for celestial dragons. These words have been in his heart for all these years, and he dared not say them out. And today he can finally speak them out. Sengoku finally panicked after hearing the seriousness in Kuzan's words. Sengoku advised earnestly, Akiji, you should know that the main purpose of Marine is to maintain the order of the sea. You should know the importance of order. Without order, ordinary people will only live a worse life. Kazan retorted angrily. Then such order is too bad. The depressed Sengoku sighed. Akiji, no matter how bad the order is, it is better than no order. No, I will maintain a new order. I will quit Marine and establish a new Marine, and then take over all the military bases of Marine in West Blue. I hope Marshal Sengoku can convince the Marines of West Blue not to make unnecessary resistance. Sengoku, you want to create a new Marine after you quit Marine? Sengoku roared angrily on the other end of the Den Mushi. At this moment, Sengoku finally realized the seriousness of the matter. Kazan is not going to quit Marine. This guy clearly wants to rebel against Marine and set up his own business. Is Kazan crazy? Create a new Marine? Do you have people? Do you have money? You have nothing. What's the point of building a new Marine? And if you build a new Marine, what will happen to the Marine? Will the world government allow the emergence of a new Marine? And West Blue is the backyard of the world government. Will they get it to you? Naive Kazan, the youngest Marine admiral, is still too naive, without any political mind, not even a little strategic awareness. Kazan, do you know how naive your words are? Do you know how much turmoil you will bring to the world? Do you know how many casualties West Blue will suffer because of you? Marshal Sengoku asked directly. Akiji assured, sacrifice is inevitable. The new Marine is ready to burn everything for justice. I think Marine must be ready to burn himself for justice. I promise that my fight with the Shurjian government will not affect civilians. Akiji, you think everything is too simple. Come back and talk to me. I know you were disappointed with Marine, but Sengoku was interrupted by Kazan before he finished speaking. Since I called you, it proves that I have made up my mind and I will not come back. Kazan paused for a moment after speaking, and then added, Marshal Sengoku, don't contact me in the future. I am afraid that the saint will misunderstand. Chapter 52. The first Marine admiral to defect in 800 years. Sengoku. Looking at the hung-up call, Sengoku's face also became extremely interesting. At first, it was livid, then it was pale, and finally it was red. At the beginning, his face was livid because Kazan actually hung up the phone. In the middle, his face was pale because during his tenure as admiral, the first Marine admiral who defected in 800 years was born, which would be one of the biggest black spots in his career. At the end, his face was red. That was purely because he was angry. What do you mean, don't contact me in the future? Afraid that the saint will misunderstand. Of course he knows the title of saint. After all, the whole world is watching the uproar now. Sengoku's face was gloomy. Sengoku forcibly suppressed his anger and convened a high-level meeting of Marines. After all the high-level Marines of the naval headquarters arrived, the meeting officially began. Today's meeting room is particularly quiet. One, because the most jumpy Garp is not there, and the other because everyone can see that Marshal Sengoku is obviously in a bad mood at the moment. Sengoku said with a heavy face, Everyone, I have a very sad news to tell you. Speaking of this, Sengoku was silent for a while. He really didn't have the courage to say the admiral's defection. Seeing Sengoku's reaction, all the vice admirals in the conference room couldn't help but wonder what happened. Is it that a vice admiral died? But it shouldn't be such a big reaction. Is it that Vice Admiral Garp had an accident? Or did Admiral Akiji die? Just when everyone was guessing, Sengoku finally said, Marine Admiral Akiji just defected. After saying this, Sengoku collapsed on the chair as if he had used up all his strength. As soon as he said this, Everyone in the conference room changed their faces. You know, that's the Marine Admiral. In the Marine, he is truly second to none and above 10,000 people. There has never been a Marine Admiral defecting in history, and the reason is very simple. Marine Admirals have great power and high autonomy. Even if Marine Admirals are dissatisfied with Marine, there is no need to judge Marine. Even the Marine Staff Officer Tsuru, who is always calm and composed, lost his composure after hearing the news. Tsuru asked nervously, "Does the world government know about this?" Sengoku said with a bit of fatigue in his tone, "I haven't reported this matter yet." Tsuru couldn't help asking, "What happened? Why did Akiji defect?" Everyone in the conference room also looked at Sengoku curiously. They were also curious about what happened that made the Marine Admiral defect. Sengoku explained, "Kazan just called me and told me that he was going to quit Marine and set up a new Marine to practice his own justice." Hearing this, Tsuru's face flashed with astonishment. After hearing the news of Marine Admiral's defection, Tsuru thought of many reasons for Kazan's defection. For example, killing Tianlong, or doing something that angered the heavens and people and was known by others. But she never expected that Kazan would quit the Marine for such a ridiculous reason. Crane angrily scolded, "Establish a new Marine? What is Kazan doing? Are you playing house? If the new Marine is so easy to establish, why would it be your turn, Kazan? Who can stand at the top of the Marine doesn't have justice to implement? Who doesn't dislike celestial dragons? Who is unhappy with the world government? Doesn't he know that it is the Marine that needs the world government, not the world government that needs the Marine?" Crane sighed. Crane, who really couldn't accept Kazan's quitting the Marine for such a ridiculous reason, said, "No, I'll ask Kazan in person." Krazer felt that as long as he explained how difficult it was to establish a new Marine and how much the monthly expenses of the naval headquarters were, it made Kazan realize that this was not playing house and that the new Marine was not so easy to establish. There might be a chance to win Kazan back. After all, Sengoku hasn't reported the matter to the world government yet, so everything is still in time. Seeing Tsuru taking out the Den Den Mushi, Sengoku opened his mouth, but in the end did not stop Tsuru's move. Sengoku also had a glimmer of hope and expectation in his heart, hoping that Tsuru could persuade Kazan to return to Marine. Soon the call was connected. "Tsuru, Vice Admiral, what do you want to talk to me about?" "I've already said that I have quit Marine." Kazan's careless tone came from the phone. Before Tsuru could speak, Akaina next to him couldn't help but curse angrily. "Kazan, you damn traitor, the shame of Marine. Hurry and return to Marine." Akiji took the Den Den Mushi out far away with a look of disgust, and waited until Akainu had vented almost enough before Akiji brought the Den Den Mushi to his ear. Crane sincerely advised, "Akiji, go back to Marine. Without sufficient financial support, even if you set up a new Marine, it will only be a pirate named after the new Marine. You know that the monthly opening of Marine is..." Crane was interrupted by Akiji before he finished speaking. "Crawl, Vice Admiral, I have 200,000 troops." "What?" Hearing this number, Crane, who was originally planning to persuade Akiji, stood up from his chair. Crane couldn't help asking, "Akiji, what did you just say?" "Say it again. How many troops do you have?" Akiji emphasized again, "I have 200,000 troops." After getting Akiji's confirmation, Crane's face instantly became extremely wonderful, and even Sengoku and others beside him were shocked, but more of them were still in disbelief. 200,000. Not 20. Not 20,000. That's 200,000. You should know that Marine only had 3 million Marines at its peak, and now Marine is less than 1.2 million. The reason why the Marines can afford to support so many soldiers is because they have the support of the world government in more than 170 member states. But how can you, Kazan? Even if your family is rich, you can't support an army of 200,000 people, right? After all, your family doesn't have a throne waiting for you to inherit. Chapter 53. Multiple coincidences lead to terrifying thoughts. One Crane asked in disbelief, "Akiji, you are kidding, right? I am more serious than ever. The Frost Legion has 200,000 colonel-level combat power. In terms of mid-level combat power, The new Marine can completely crush the current Marine. I'm not bragging. I just want to warn you in Marshal Sengoku that I hope to be able to take over all the Marine stations in West Blue stably, and I don't want a bloody conflict to break out. Kazan said very sincerely and hung up the Din Din Mushi directly. Hearing the busy tone of Din Din Mushi, Crane put away the Din Din Mushi and looked at everyone in confusion. It's fake, right? Admiral Akiji is not a prince of any country. How could he quietly bring out 200,000 troops? That's right, and it's 200,000 colonel-level combat power. We Marine can't even put together such a luxurious lineup. How can Admiral Akiji do it? Akainu roared angrily. If it were me, I should send someone to wipe out the traitor immediately. What new Marine? This is a betrayal of Marine. Sengoku, what do you think about this? How true is Kuzan's words? Crane turned his eyes to Marshal Sengoku. Sengoku was silent after hearing this. He was also thinking whether what Kazan said was true. If it's fake, it's okay. If it's true, then it's a big problem. Just when everyone was skeptical, Gion said awkwardly, Sister Tsuru, I think what Kazan said might be true. Seeing that it was her good sister Gon, Tsuru frowned and asked, Why? That. Gion was a little entangled in whether she should tell that thing. Tsuru reminded her very seriously, Gion, if you know something, tell it. Now the information is very important. Hearing this, Gion finally stopped hesitating. It's like this, I know the Frost Legion that Kazan mentioned. When we failed to perform Buster Call in the Taijilo Wolf, a man named Han Feng found me and gave me a notebook and asked me to pass it to Admiral Akiji. Akainu asked with great dissatisfaction, You have had contact with that group of people? And they gave you a notebook? Such an important thing. Why didn't you report it? Crane glared at Akainu and scolded. Akainu, shut up first. Let Gion finish his words. Gion nodded and continued. Through that notebook, Admiral Akiji knew his identity and background, as well as the terrorist forces behind his family. Crane, who is familiar with the background of all the high-level Marines, frowned and asked, Identity? What identity can Akiji have? Isn't he the son of a wealthy businessman in West Blue? There are at least 8,000 such wealthy businessmen in the entire West Blue. What kind of background is this? No. Gion shook his head and explained. Remember the first document on Chinese characters we obtained? What do you mean? Sengoku looked at Gion in confusion. Why was he involved in other things? Isn't the most important thing now Akiji's background? Gion said. 600 slaves followed the saint for their descendants and practiced ice breathing. More than 400 descendants of followers settled in West Blue. Akiji Admiral is the descendant of that group of people, and it was his ancestor Han Feng who fought against Akiji in the Buster Call operation. Akainu suddenly asked, Wait, you said that the enemy who almost killed Akiji was his ancestor. Gion nodded. Akainu just felt it was ridiculous at the moment. Akainu questioned. The one called Han Feng went for Akiji's heart. It doesn't look like he was teaching his unfilial descendants a lesson. To be honest, with Akiji's injury at that time, if it was him, he would have died long ago. Facing Akainu's doubts, Gion calmly explained, I only learned about this later. It is said that the source of ice breathing is the heart. The old man named Han Feng wanted to replace his heart with Akiji's. Wait, Gion, don't say anything. Let me calm down. He Shang interrupted Gion. Crane, whose brain was working at high speed, began to sort out the causes and consequences of this series of events. It was Sengoku who decided the candidate for Buster Call, and Akiji happened to be a descendant of the Taijilo Wolf, and his enemy happened to be waiting for his ancestor Han Feng there. And Gion happened to be able to translate Chinese characters. Is this series of coincidences really a coincidence? In the dark, Crane saw a pair of invisible big hands manipulating everything behind the scenes. And Akiji and even Marine Marshal Sengoku are just chess pieces on the chessboard of the manipulator behind the scenes. Crane's back was covered with cold sweat when he thought of this. Tsuru continued to ask, Gion, what's the matter with the 200,000 troops? Gion explained. It is said that the 200,000 troops were spontaneously formed by the descendants of the 600 slaves to protect their families. It was jointly funded by 400 families and was called the Frost Legion. 400 families with a 300-year heritage. A family alliance with such a foundation is enough to support 200,000 troops. This is reasonable. Tsuru nodded. After this doubt was solved, Tsuru asked again, "Then how did Akiji become the master of that legion?" Gion said, "It's because of the frozen fruit. It is said that the only requirement to become the leader of the Frost Legion is to be a frozen fruit ability user." Another coincidence? Tsuru and Sengoku frowned at the same time. Akiji's devil fruit was obtained after he joined Marine, and it can be said to be a coincidence. There is absolutely no help behind it. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Tsuru and Sengoku looked at each other, and both saw confusion and doubt in each other's eyes. Chapter 54. The man who had been planning for 300 years finally made a move. It is certain that Akiji did not know the so-called saint before. Akiji was able to obtain the frozen fruit and even become a Marine admiral, all thanks to his own efforts and luck. If you really say that Akiji is an undercover sent to the Marine by the time traveler, it is a bit unreasonable. After all, Akiji did not know his identity before. But is all this a coincidence? That is too much of a coincidence, right? As for the undercover, if there is an undercover among the 3 Marine admirals, it must be Kizuru, not the lazy Akiji. Although Akiji is usually a little lazy, he is not vague when the world government and the marshal issue orders. But Kizaru is different. That guy is a typical person who does not work and does not make any effort, Sengoku said with regret. It seems that Kazan is determined to go all the way. I can only report this matter to the 5 stars. This time, Crane did not speak for Kazan again. He asked, "Has the world government approved the military funds?" He asked this because he was afraid that the world government would use this incident as an excuse to deduct Marines' military funds. Sengoku comforted him. It was approved early this morning. Kazan's matter should not affect the military expenditure of the Marine. Sengoku suddenly turned his attention to Kizuru, who was cutting his nails next to him. Sengoku ordered in an unquestionable tone, "Kizuru, you are ready to attack at any time. If Akiji really attacks the Marine of West Blue, then you will lead the Marine to stop it." Knowing how hard this bone is to chew, Kizuru retorted without thinking, "Akiji's ability is terrible. Why not let Akaina go? His ability should be more restrained against Akiji, right?" Sengoku's face darkened, and then he had to explain. "You are faster and can provide support at any time." Akainu gritted his teeth and recommended himself. "Leave Akiji to me. I want to deal with this traitor myself." What he Akainu hated most in his life was pirates, and what he hated most was traitors. There's not much comradeship between the 3 admirals, so Akainu really wants to kill Akiji. Sengoku shook his head and refused. "No. You must stay at the naval headquarters during this period until Garp comes back." Speaking of Garp, Sengoku suddenly felt a little flustered. Akiji said that there was property to inherit at home, so he set up a new Marine. Garp, that unreliable guy, also said that there was inheritance at home. Would he set up a new world government? Thinking of this, Sengoku was even more panicked. You have to know that Garp has a precedent. He taught his son to be a revolutionary army, and then his grandson was a pirate. As a Marine, how much integrity Garp has, Sengoku really can't guarantee this. After all, everything is just a matter of precaution. With Akiji's precedent in front of him, Sengoku was really afraid that Garp would also defect. After the meeting, Tsuru and Sengoku came to the office in silence. Some things were not convenient to say in the meeting room just now. "Tsuru, what do you think about this matter?" Sengoku asked tiredly. "Akiji, as the first Marine admiral to defect in 800 years, you, as the admiral, must bear the main responsibility, not to mention that Kazan is going to create a new Marine. I am afraid that the world government will hold you accountable and even remove you from the position of Marine Admiral," Crane said worriedly. Sengoku's face was full of fatigue after hearing this. After gently pinching the bridge of his nose, Sengoku said with a bitter face, "After such a big thing, I don't have the face to continue to occupy the position of Marine Admiral. It's good to retire early. After all, I am old." Alas, Crane also sighed. Of course, she could hear the bitterness in Sengoku's tone, but the officialdom is so cruel. At this time, Sengoku looked at him seriously and said, I'm worried about the mastermind behind all this. He raised his eyebrows and asked, Are you talking about that time traveler? Sengoku nodded and said, Yes, it has been planned for 300 years, and now it seems that the time traveler can't bear it anymore. He looked out the window with melancholy and sighed. Yes, the person who has been planning for 300 years has begun to move, and the world of great strife is about to begin. No one would underestimate the time traveler, who was able to hide in the dark for 300 years just to overthrow the world government. The most terrifying thing is that the time traveler also has a divine talent that ordinary people can't match. No one knows how terrible it will be after the terrorist crisis that has been nurtured for 300 years breaks out. Sengoku complained with a depressed face. I thought the other party would target the world government, but I really didn't expect that the first victim of this incident would be our Marine. Although it seems that Akiji established a new Marine, they both know that this is just the first step for the mastermind to start walking towards this stage called the world. After the two chatted for a while, Tsuru asked again, Garp has been gone for several days. What's going on with him? Speaking of Garp, Sengoku complained with resentment. I don't know where the old guy went to East Blue, and I can't contact him by phone. If there was no problem with his life paper, I would have suspected that he died in a corner of East Blue. Tsuru couldn't help asking, Is Garp really going to eat the devil fruit? He's almost 80. Recently, this gossip has spread throughout the naval headquarters. As a Marine hero, Garp is going to use the devil fruit at the age of nearly 80. This is quite explosive news, Sengoku said with envy. I heard that it is a devil fruit without side effects. Let alone Garp, if I hadn't eaten the great Buddha fruit, I would also like to eat the devil fruit without side effects. Devil fruit without side effects? Tsuru frowned, feeling that this was a bit unreliable, and asked worriedly, Did Garp say this himself? Wouldn't the old guy be fooled? Can a devil fruit without side effects still be called a devil fruit? It should be called the fruit of God. It is not an exaggeration to say that the devil fruit without the curse of the sea is a gift from God. Chapter 55. The Background of World Government. Moreover, Garp was notoriously unreliable, and Tsuru was really worried that Garp would be cheated. Sengoku hurriedly comforted him. Garp went with Bogart, so there shouldn't be any accidents. At this moment, Sengoku also realized that what he was worried about was not the same problem as Tsuru. Moreover, Garp had seen too much darkness in the world government. If Garp really wanted to betray Marine, he would have done it long ago, and it would not be possible to wait until he was nearly 80 years old. After comforting himself in his heart, Sengoku picked up the Den Mushi and prepared to report to the 5 stars about the defection of Marine Admiral Akiji. Red line. Mariewa between power. After hanging up the Den Mushi with Sengoku with a sullen face, Izambaranvi, Nasadro looked at the other 4 people. After a moment of silence, Jigaluja Satan said, The defection of Marine Admiral Akiji is not only a blow to Marine's face. Marine is a knife for world conquest. This knife cannot be too sharp, otherwise it will hurt itself. But this knife cannot be too blunt, because it will lose its deterrent effect. Marine Admiral defected, which is something that has never happened since the establishment of world government. This is a shame for Marine, but for world government, isn't it? Saint Jigaluja Satan, who had white curly hair, reminded, I think we should pay more attention to the new Marine and the so-called saint. Saint Marcus Maz said with a gloomy face, The Traverser is an immortal. He has laid out a full 300 plans to overthrow the world government. The most terrifying thing is that we don't know how many plans he has laid in secret. Akiji is obviously a chess piece, the first step of the Traverser to attack the world government. If it is not handled well, the majesty of the world government will suffer an unprecedented blow. Saint Shepherd 10 Peter, the god of agriculture, also said what he was most worried about. Once the new Marine is successfully established, it means that the world government will lose control of West Blue. Why can the world government stand firm? That's because there are more than 170 countries behind the world government, and most of these more than 170 countries are from the 4 seas. Although West Blue is the sea area with the fewest member countries, there are more than 20 countries from West Blue. Once the new Marine takes over West Blue, it means that the world government will lose 20 member countries. Using the simplest example of money, once the new Marine succeeds, the world government will lose at least hundreds of billions of Baileys every year, not including various resources. This is what they don't want to see anyway. Akiji's new Marine has violated the bottom line of the world government. Topman Vacheli Saint added. Moreover, once the new Marine is successfully established, it will inevitably arouse the ambitions of some lunatics. What if they follow Akiji's example and also build a new Marine? You should know that there are no fewer Marines who have opinions about celestial dragons, and some even hate the world government. What if these people see Akiji succeed and have their own ideas? Marcus Maz Saint asked, "Do you want to dispatch the Knights of God?" Shepherd Tin Pit Saint, the god of agriculture, changed his face and shook his head directly in opposition. No need. The mere Marine Admiral is not worth dispatching the Knights of God. How can something like a trump card be played so quickly? This is like playing landlord. When someone just throws out a 3 to test you, you throw out 4 2s. How can you play cards like this? Topman Vacheli Saint suggested, "Let's do this. Let our Secret Service cooperate with Marine. Cypherpol will send out 2 Admiral forces to secretly cooperate with Marine. Even if there is any change, it can be saved in time." Marcus Maz Saint nodded. "Okay, anyway, those old guys are dying soon. It is their honor to shine for the world government." The old guys mentioned by Marcus Maz Saint are the old people of Cypherpol. The brainwashed agents have absolute loyalty to the world government. Although most agents are consumables, there are also some geniuses who survived in that cruel environment. After aging, the agents are no longer suitable for spy work and will be in a semi-retired state. The world government is big and has a lot of pensions. Those who can survive to retirement are either strong or have outstanding spy talents. These are all talents. Even if the world government is stupid, it will not consume them casually. Shepherd 10, Pittsburgh Saint, the god of agriculture, nodded and agreed. Well, Cypherpol is getting weaker and weaker, and we will face more and more crises. It's time for Cypherpol to expand. Let's do it. Just like that, the 5 treasures of the world government quickly decided on the handling of the new Marine incident. And the order Sengoku received was also very simple. Dispatch the Marine Admiral to cooperate with the world government to capture Akiji, and then bring him back to be publicly executed in front of the world. Chapter 56. The Revolutionary Army and the New Marine. When Sengoku received this order, he was completely paralyzed. Marines were already short of people, and they had to send Marine Admirals to capture the defected Marine Admirals. If only a Kainu was sent, it would definitely not be enough, and both admirals had to be sent. But the problem came again. What if the naval headquarters without admirals was attacked? You know, Garp can't be contacted now. You guys gave the order as soon as you said it, but can you consider the life and death of the Marines? Sengoku, who had already scolded the 5 elders in his heart, had to bite the bullet and accept the order. Although he was very dissatisfied with the order issued by the 5 elders, Sengoku still had to call Akainu and Crane. Hearing the marshal's call, Akainu rushed to the office as soon as possible. Compared with the other 2 admirals, Akainu is a perfect Marine except for his extreme personality. Looking at Akainu in front of him, Sengoku said with relief, "The order from the 5 elders has come down. You will take the fleet to meet up with Kizuro later and make sure to arrest Akiji." True, who just walked in, did not comment on the order of the 5 elders after hearing this, but asked another question. "Where is the wanted order for Kazan? What does the world government say?" Sengoku explained, "The world government obviously wants to conceal this matter first. After all, the defection of Marine Admiral has a very bad impact." Suru nodded. There is nothing wrong with the 5 elders' approach. The defection of Marine Admiral has a very bad impact. Just then, there was a sudden knock on the door. "Come in," Sengoku said in a deep voice. The clerk who came and reported, "Marshal Sengoku, West Blue 112 branch reported that a group of people who claimed to be new Marines came over there and want to take over the 112 branch, and also said that it was the order of Admiral Akiji." Just then, There was another knock on the door. Marshal, West Blue 14 branch reported that a group of people came over there. Marshal, West Blue 15. In less than a few minutes, the Marine Marshal's office was crowded with clerks, and the things they reported were all about the new Marine. Sengoku, who felt overwhelmed, ordered depressively, "I will leave the Crane matter to you, and then send it to my office after the statistics are completed." Sengoku sent away the clerk, who came to report. Seeing this, Akina left Sengoku's office without looking back. Akina didn't care much about these things. In Akinu's view, as long as they solved the culprit, all other problems would be solved. Crane asked worriedly, "What should we do now?" If the Marines of West Blue rebel, the news of Akiji's defection can't be concealed. Sengoku also looked tangled. As Crane said, this matter is really tricky. First of all, Kazan issued the order in the name of Marine Admiral Akiji. Those low-level soldiers may not understand what Marine and New Marine are, but they definitely know the position of Marine Admiral. If they ordered a rebellion at this time, it would confirm the news that Akiji defected from the Marine. As long as they dared to issue such an order, the next second this matter would be known to the whole world. If they did not order a rebellion, it would be possible for the new Marine to take over the entire West Blue in a short time without casualties. Wouldn't that be a bargain for Kuzan, the traitor? Crane sighed, and then said helplessly, "Let's stabilize them first and wait for the results from Akainu and the others." Sengoku nodded depressedly. "This is the only way now." Sengoku gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, I was tricked by that BD Kuzan." Alas, Marine Admiral defected. Who would have thought of such a thing? Crane sighed depressedly. Crane reminded again, "It's better to deal with this matter as soon as possible. After all, there must be undercovers from other forces in the top of Marine. We won't be busy for long. No matter how powerful an organization is, there will be worms, and Marine is no exception. It is no secret that there are spies from other forces in the top of Marine. Sengoku can only pray. It's better to keep it a secret for a day." Sengoku thought he could keep it a secret for a while, but what he didn't know was that someone knew the news after he finished the meeting. A secret base in New World. Long, who had just received the news, laughed with gloating. Marine Admiral Akiji actually defected and is planning to create a new Marine. Interesting. Sabo, what do you think about this? Sabo smiled confidently. He knew that this was a test from the teacher, but Sabo was confident that he would not let the teacher down. Sabo replied, "We can cooperate. The new Marine will definitely need allies, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend." Yes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Long also smiled. Long was very satisfied with Sabo's answer, and even more satisfied with the results of his teaching. At this time, Sabo asked again, "Teacher, about the Chinese characters." Long smiled and asked back, "What do you want to ask? Is it the Chinese characters themselves, or the meaning behind them?" Sabo said, "I want to know about the time traveler. He started planning to overthrow the world government 300 years ago. Why have we never heard of such a force in the Revolutionary Army over the years?" Long smiled meaningfully after hearing this. "No, you actually heard of it. Do you remember what our people reported before?" Sabo suddenly realized the shadow of the Tajiro Wolf. Long nodded. His men had reported the Tajiro Wolf Bridge before, saying that there was an unknown shadow that had been shrouding the Tajiro Wolf and had been affecting it. And Long paused here and then continued. Although there is no direct evidence to prove that the Imperial equipment is related to the time traveler, the Imperial equipment is definitely related to the Chinese characters. Sabo nodded thoughtfully after hearing this. Chapter 57. The Imperial Weapon of Betty, the user of the encouragement fruit. At this time, Long continued, and the so-called New Marine is actually the work of that person. It has been planned for 300 years. That person should start. Sabo realized that he had missed a lot of important information and smiled bitterly. "Sorry, I always disappoint you. It's my negligence." Just then, Bello Betty, who had been silent, suddenly asked, "Boss, I want to go to West Blue." Bello Betty. The Paramecia encouragement fruit ability can awaken the power hidden in people's hearts by waving flags and shouting. It can also make people who are oppressed but have no courage to resist muster the courage to resist and even make the encouraged people have a constant flow of power. Bello Betty is definitely one of the core souls of the Revolutionary Army. After all, the encouragement fruit is very important to the Revolutionary Army. Long glanced at Bello Betty, and then looked at the flute in Betty's hand thoughtfully. Long asked, "Do you want to help?" "Yes. After all, he gave me such an important thing. I have to give back, right?" Bello Betty smiled brightly, then lowered her head and looked at the flute in her hand. This flute is not an ordinary flute, but the legendary imperial weapon, military music dream. The imperial flute can freely manipulate the emotions of the audience. Although it is known for boosting morale on the battlefield, it can actually manipulate dozens of emotions. But if you listen to it repeatedly, you will develop resistance to the song. The secret technique is to use the performance to strengthen yourself, summoning demons. The encouragement fruit is combined with the imperial flute.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.